Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started here pretty quickly, so if I can get everybody to grab their seats. We're going to jump into our board meeting and get started, so I'll ask everybody, at least all the board. Everybody got your name placard, so we know you have to wear these on your badge. You know, we don't get small nameplates before board members. All right, so I'm going to call to order the regular board meeting of the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority for December 6th. At this time, if I could ask, Mr. Lawson, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir?
Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. So, Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Caroselli?
Here.
Mr. Dillard?
Here.
Mr. Lawson?
Here.
Chairman Lucy?
Here.
Mr. Murdoch?
Here.
Hillary Sheevy? Here. Mark Sturbins?
Here.
Bill Wood?
Here.
Mr. Wowo?
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks we have a quorum for today's meeting. So obviously it's a little different setup. We're going to have microphones up here. So for those who are speaking in public comment this morning, if you could come up to the mic and speak, that way we can get you on record. So first, I have Mr. Andy Chapman.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting us down here today. I'm speaking on behalf of item, I think is G2, which is the lease that you will be contemplating extending for the building located at 969 Tahoe Boulevard, which is where the Incline Village Crystal Bay Visitor Bureau is housed. And that is, I'm the executive director, CEO of that organization. So first, I just want to thank you for working through the lease with us and IVGID, because it's really IVGID and RSCVA with Washoe County that created that lease 35 years ago, soon to be 35 years. So this is another 35-year lease. And again, we just appreciate the partnership with the RSCVA and look forward to another 35 years of continued efforts together for our region. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. All right, and next I have Mr. John Silver and Mr. Silver and a couple of wonderful guests that he's bringing with him this morning.
Morning. Thank you guys for allowing us to come today. My name is John Silver. I am a coach of the Reed Maverick youth football team here in Reno. I'm also a proud member of the Reno Police Department. The reason I'm here today is to talk to you guys about something that's very exciting for our football team and for our whole region. The Reed Maverick football team is based on kids from all over the region, the whole Reno Sparks area. Turn that off.
He's got important business to do.
Yeah.
Sorry. Off. Okay, come back up. So we have kids from all over. Even though it's called Reed, that's just where we coach out of. We have kids from Reno Sparks all over the area. This team is not a normal team. This isn't a team where all of the players were able to pay to play the regular season. I took all kids from across the region and said, if there's kids that cannot afford to play for this team or for our league, send them to me and we will fundraise. We fundraise just for this team to be able to play. The last 2 years they have been absolutely amazing. They have dominated the competition in Northern Nevada and have never lost a game. 2 weeks ago we went to California and played in the Cali Bowl, which had the best teams from California, Washington. Again, we dominated our competition, winning all 3 games and the championship. We scored 150 points and only allowed 25 in those three games. With that, the nation took notice. These games were streamed live through youth sports, and the commentator started talking about our team as being one of the best 8U teams in the nation. After winning the competition, We were invited to a world championship in Canton, Ohio, the home of the Hall of Fame, the National Football Hall of Fame. And the problem with that is we only had a week and a half or 2 weeks to raise funds for all of these kids to travel across the country. We have 27 kids on this team. Many of them have parents, single family parents or parents that have not been able to be involved at all. So the reason I'm coming to you guys is for assistance in helping us get all of these kids to Canton, Ohio. Another thing is it's a big thing for our region and our community. This is something that's similar to the Little League World Series. It's only been going on in Canton for I think about 5 or 6 years, so it's gotten bigger and bigger. The final games will be on CBS Sports, live on CBS Sports December 16th, and it will really bring attention to this community. The players really worked hard this year, not only on the field but off to be able to play. This, like I said, they weren't able to just pay to play. We had to fundraise by washing cars, selling tickets. They were the biggest sellers of the Aces tickets this year. They did all kinds of different events just to be able to play and make it to California. So I'm asking for you guys for your assistance in helping this team get there. We obviously it's expensive. It's been the bill's about $40,000 to $42,000 was our total what we were asking for. I believe we've raised about 20 right now from the community. We have some other things that we'd like to offer, putting logos on helmets, things like that could get national attention or world attention, as it's called, the World Youth Hall of Fame. So thank you guys for having us, and I have handouts here if anyone is willing to take our donation letter. Talks a little bit about our team. We are a nonprofit organization as well, the Sierra Youth Football League, so if anyone's able to help us, we would definitely appreciate it.
Great.
Chairman?
Yes.
Can I just say something?
Absolutely.
Is this working?
Yeah, it should be.
Hello? You can hear me. So they came to city council yesterday, and I pulled John aside and I said, well, what will you do if you can't afford to go? And he goes, Hillary, I put the whole thing on my credit card. And that really just stuck with my heart. And then I spoke to these little boys and I said, what would it mean? And they said it would be the best Christmas gift they ever received. So anyway, I just was so touched by your story. But I also work with John Silver through the Reno Police Department, and he adopts many of these kids because a lot of them, their parents work, and a lot of them are single families, and you drive them to practice and you do so much for them. And I'm a big advocate and believer in youth sports. I also think it's incredible for tourism opportunities. And what do you think? You're going to be on CBS Sports. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's exciting.
Exciting?
Can
Okay.
I say one more thing real quick, Jamani? So I don't know if you guys have ever watched the movie The Michael Orr Story.
Yeah.
If this isn't it, I mean, this is identical.
Yeah.
I met Jamani last June and talked him into playing football. He has pretty much been with me since July. I go to his teacher parent conferences. He plays in an 8-year-old division. If you have an 8-year-old, my 8-year-old is 70 pounds. He just turned 9 now, as he's reminding me. But it's an 8-year-old division because of his birthday. He's 166 pounds. This kid, given the opportunity, is going to be in the NFL and represent us very well.
You're the blind side, is that what it is?
Yeah, the Michael Orr
Anyway, I have a
blindside
check for $1,000. I'd ask everyone in this room if they could possibly do anything to help. And I hope you'll accept this, and this will help a little bit. But I know you're not all the way there, and I know the credit card company will be very unhappy with you if you can't get there. So I wanted to make sure to give you this check, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it. And tell everyone how they can donate.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We do have a GoFundMe page at Reed Raider Mavericks, or my Facebook page at John Silver.
Do you have a handout?
Yes, and I have a handout
Perfect.
that has all
Okay.
that, as well as our tax ID. Checks can be made to Sierra Youth Football League, and I'll hand these out. And if you want a phone number to get a hold of me, obviously it's something that's quick. We leave next Tuesday, but we'll take whatever we can, and we really appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
All
John.
right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John. And thanks, guys, for coming. Thanks, John.
And I bet you guys are stoked. You're out of school, right?
You go right to school.
Here you go.
Dang.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
Hey, boys, go get some breakfast next door before you leave, too. Go get him some breakfast. All right. All right, we're on to our next item. That was awesome, and hopefully we can continue to, I probably, just as Mayor Sheevy, challenge everybody to help these boys and get these guys to Canton, Ohio. What a neat experience that is. All right, looking for an approval of the agenda this morning. I got a motion from Mr. Murdoch. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Lawson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to approval of minutes for the October 25th, 2018 Board of Directors meeting. Is there any changes or any alterations to the board minutes of this, as anybody sees? Seeing none, looking for a motion to approve.
Motion.
I have a motion from the mayor, second from Mr. Dillard. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, Mr. DeLone, we are on to the RSCVA staff update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for attending today's strategic planning session and monthly board meeting. I'd like to report that the last month has been very, very good for citywide convention bookings in Reno, Tahoe. On Saturday, November 17th, just a few weeks ago, the National Guard Association of the United States Board of Directors, acting on a recommendation of their convention committee, excuse me, affirmed Reno, Tahoe for the organization's annual 2023 convention. Competition for this convention was fierce, but our presentation and advanced preparedness won the board's vote in Washington, D.C., and that upsetted the presentations there from Honolulu, Hawaii, and Opryland in Nashville, securing the convention for Reno, Tahoe.
Huge.
Our destination will enjoy from this group around 10,000 room nights in August of 2023, most of it midweek. Also in November, the Department of Education selected the destination for a December 2019 program of 15,000 room nights. I think everyone in the hospitality industry knows how weak December can be here for convention and tourism business, so we are very excited about that organization coming here. Both groups mentioned use multiple hotels for housing, and both must use the convention center due to the large size and complexity of the programs. Mr. Larragetto will have additional details on each of those. At the Reno Sparks Convention Center, where we're sitting today, the installation of the 512 LED exhibit hall light fixtures started earlier this week, and the contractor is expecting to complete this project before Christmas, well in time for the arrival of Safari Club International that will be here January 9 to 12. Interestingly, that organization's pre-convention room pickup is excellent. This past Monday, advanced reservations for SCI secured stands at 17,014 room nights, with over a month to go to add additional reservations. This has been their highest pre-convention attendance in some time. They're going to have a great convention here.
I'd like to hear that.
Today, next door in Exhibit Hall number 1 here at the Convention Center, the National Agricultural Aviation Association is winding up their annual convention and exposition that included 10 full-size aircraft from around the country, which were taxied down Peckham Lane from the airport runway last Sunday morning at 4 a.m. into the exhibit hall here. Those planes returned to the airport at 4:30 this morning. I'm sure all of you were up to see them. We're one of the few convention centers and destinations in the West that can accomplish that. Mayor Sheevy, please pass on to the police department and Chief Soto our thanks. The department's invaluable escort services for the airplanes. We couldn't do it without them. And thanks to Mary Lee Mora and the Airport Authority, if you're here this morning, for their vital and expert help and collaboration. Someone cut the lock on the end of the runway gate and out went the planes mysteriously. As we approach the last half of the fiscal year, we will soon begin in earnest our budget process for the 2018 and 2019 fiscal year that begins July 1. Our intent for next fiscal year is conservative, with the initial budgetary revenue forecast held to 1% growth. As the new fiscal year approaches, our proposed budget will be updated accordingly to reflect national and regional economic trends relevant at that time. We are proposing conservative approach to our budget. Goldman Sachs chief economist went on the record this week forecasting that the United States economy may slow in the last half of next calendar year, 2019, to about 1.75% growth. And this would be considered a deceleration from its recent pace of 3.5% growth. Other indicators include the Federal Reserve continues to raise interest rates, which has a slowing effect on the economy. And other factors include continued volatility in the stock markets. Today, we learned at breakfast the market dropped something like 500 points today, in addition to the 700 points it dropped last week. So we'll all be working a little bit longer. The Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority has reported that their room tax collections are down 6% this fiscal year to date compared to their budget, and that next year the RSCVA may budget flat or a small decrease for 2019-2020. So with that, that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. DeLone. Ms. Cunningham.
If I can turn your attention to the scorecard in your binders. Just take a look at the September 2018 numbers. We're gaining traction on our website. This September saw an 8.7% increase in overall web traffic, which was really exciting to see. Overall occupancy for the month of September dipped to 74%. But then you look at the ADR, and there was a really healthy increase of 11.2%, coming in at just under $127 for average daily rate. This, of course, combined with the occupancy, brought a taxable revenue to $42.5 million, which is a 2% overall increase over September of 17. So we're seeing a trend of occupancy being a bit soft and ADR being strong. Also of note is air passengers for the month of September. There was a 5% increase in air passengers over last year. And last of all, I know you're going to say no, tell me it isn't so, but yes, we have marketing has won another award for our website. We squeaked in before the end of the year. This one is called the Communicator Awards. And listen to who we beat out. Visit California, Visit Tahiti, Visit Belize, and Visit Rhode Island. And we were in company with others who won gold for this award. Visit Abu Dhabi, Oakland, and Jamaica, and JFK Airport. So we're so proud of the work that's been done and how it's being acknowledged and seen from the rest of the country and the world. Thank you.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you, Mrs. Cunningham. Mr. Larragetta.
Good morning. Just to, not to be redundant on some of Phil's comments, but I wanted to echo some of the details as it relates to the two groups that went to contract in the last 30 days. These two pieces of business represent over 25,000 room nights in totality, both NAGAS and the Department of Education. I'd like to extend a congratulations to the entire RSCVA sales team, our marketing department, and SMG and facilities team, specifically sales team members Alita Barrett and Robin Nichols, and our participating hotel partners for their efforts in the bid process and rolling out the red carpet during their respective site inspections. So congratulations, well done. Second to that, I'd like to read an email that we received in relation to the Department of Education, who came from the certified meeting planner from ASK Associates that represents the Department of Education. ASK Associates is tasked with site selection for over 6,000 attendee training conferences for our federal government client annually. Site selection is always challenging given the large number of attendees the many requirements for this group, and the short time frame between site selection and conference dates from year to year, 18 months. From the moment the RFP was deployed, Alita Barrett, RSCVA, was incredibly proactive and called with many questions in order to gain a firm understanding of the needs and the points of value for this client. I felt like we had a true ally in the process and had another team member going to bat for us. The RSCVA team's constant follow-up with ASK, the hotel partners, and the Reno Sparks Convention Center helped to ensure each party had a firm understanding of the client's requirements, and they were also integral in ASK's receiving prompt, complete responses from each property during negotiations. Additionally, the RSCVA, RSCC, and the hotel partners all worked cohesively as a team to showcase Reno as the perfect location for a federal government training conference. Most properties now have gaming as an amenity rather than the first thing you see and hear when you walk in the door. Reno offers so much more for attendees to see and do, which is a big plus for this client. We are thrilled to be holding the 2019 program in Reno and look forward to welcoming our attendees to this location for the first time in over 14 years. Thank you. Now to dig into the numbers, again, if I could turn your attention to the scorecard. The month of September, we were off in terms of goal. We produced 7,049 room nights against a goal of 18,429. Of the 7,049 room nights, 4,839 were represented by the convention segment and 2,210 from sports. Again, groups coming from various segments, which is pretty traditional and consistent throughout each month's reporting on agriculture, education, government, etc. For the month of October, we had a tremendous month. Obviously, DOE going definite. We produced 29,415 room nights on a goal of 18,429. For the first 120 days of the fiscal year, the team is currently pacing at 98% versus goal. A quick update on travel. Several members of the team has been traveling in parallel with several of our hotel representatives for holiday events throughout their respective territories. Next week, myself, Maddie Metcalf, based in Chicago, and Robin Nichols, who oversees the Smurf segment, will be traveling to Chicago for the holiday showcase, December 12th through 14th. And lastly, I'd like to just provide everyone an update on staff. I'm happy to announce a new addition to the RSCVA sales team. Rhonda Leach has joined the RSCVA sales team. I believe this is round 3, Rhonda, right? As the Director of Equestrian and Sports Sales. Rhonda will report to Director of the Sports Development, Shelley Fine. Rhonda's addition provides a dedicated staff member to a segment that is constantly produced for our stakeholders. Rhonda's experience in professional and personal relationships will provide the RSCVA the opportunity to attract new equine and equine competition events and focus on having groups return to Reno Tahoe that have departed over the years. Thank you.
Welcome, Mrs. Leach. All right. Mr. Jimenez.
Okay, on the tourism front, September's room night totals reported were 77,109, or a decrease of 561 room nights from last September. That puts us at 93% to a target of 82,300 room nights. Year-to-date, room nights of 233,576 are running 2,998 room nights behind last year-to-date, and puts us at 27% to the annual tourism goal of 863,468 room nights. A couple highlights for the month of September. We launched partnership marketing with Travelport, Priceline, and Southwest Airlines Vacations. We conducted a sales mission in Seattle and Portland and attended the Delta Vacations University. On the China front, we have a complete update coming later on in the day, but just for September, we attended 2 trade shows, conducted sales calls to receptive tour operators in Southern California, and we had 3 articles that were published that were directly related to a media fam that we hosted in August.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. All right, Mr. Chisel. Facilities and financials, please.
Just real quick, in your board packet is the interim financials. You'll note that for the fiscal year ending October, for the first 4 months, room tax collections were down slightly, 1.3%, and room Tourism surcharge was down about 5.5%, but overall revenues were up a little over 1%. In addition, our expenditures are below budget. So far, our overall budget is holding strong, and we are meeting our budget. And that's all about all the update I have.
Fantastic, and I'm sure you'll be going over further with the CAFR. All right. All right, seeing no more, unless there's, Miss Isaac, if you'd like to add anything, Miss Neal? Nothing? Okay. Seeing nothing more from the executive team, we'll move on. Are there any questions from the board in regards to the staff update? Nope. Okay. We are on to item F, F1, which is the discussion and possible direction from the board in the matter of the demolition of the Reno Sparks Livestock Event Center Exhibit Hall. Mr. Chisel.
Robert Chisel again for the record. Before you is an item to discuss the potential direction from the board on the demolition of the exhibit hall at the Reno Sparks Livestock Event Center. Just to bring you quickly up to speed, we had budgeted $375,000 for the repair of the roof of the building. Had gone out to bid twice for the repair of the roof. First time we got no takers. Second time the only bid came in at about $650,000. With contingency and construction engineering, the estimated cost was going to be well over $700,000. We brought the matter to the Personnel and Finance Committee, who reviewed it and looked at the options of replacing the roof, repairing the roof, doing nothing, and made the staff recommended conclusion of demolishing the exhibit hall. In addition to the roof, the State of Nevada Public Works Department had done an analysis of the Livestock Event Center and had identified approximately $500,000 of additional repairs that needed to be done to the exhibit hall. The exhibit hall had been built in 1968 and originally had a cantilevered roof, which probably led to a lot of the rust and deterioration of the purlins that are holding up the building. The Personnel and Finance Committee recommended to the board that we demolish the building but attempt to save the bathrooms that are attached to the outside. We will go forth with preparing a bid document to see if we can destroy the exhibit hall but keep the bathrooms, depending on what that comes in. We'll keep the board up to date. Also, we went to the Reno Rodeo Association, and the Reno Rodeo Association agreed to the demolition of the exhibit hall. So staff is looking for direction from the board.
Perfect. All right. This is a long time coming, and this is going to be a much needed improvement to the Reno Livestock Event Center. I think that this is going to add for more open space for future events. So any further comments, Mr. Caroselli?
Move to approve F1 to demolish the exhibit hall.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second from Mr. Wowo. We may keep the bathroom. Who knows? It'll be kind of weird. You're going to see a bathroom in the middle of a bunch of concrete, but it'll be there. It'll be a bathroom.
We drive by just that.
Yeah. Yeah. They want it with the. Yeah. All right. I've got a motion from Mr. Caroselli. I have a second from Mr. Wowo. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Item F2, Mr. Chisel.
All right, next item is the demolition of the armory at the Reno Sparks Livestock Event Center. In the budget, we had allocated $350,000 for the demolition of the armory building at the Reno Sparks Livestock Event Center. The initial discussions with Washoe County have come to the point where they are willing to allow us to go in and demolish the building. What we're seeking is board direction to remove the building. The armory was built approximately 65 years ago. We're actually not entirely sure of the date. It has experienced a lot of roof leaks, mold, and other issues in that building, and it has not been used for a number of years and is a blight on that corner of the Reno Sparks Livestock Event Center. So we are seeking direction from the board to seek all necessary approvals and work with Washoe County on the demolition of the armory.
All right. Any discussion about this? You know, this obviously is a piece of property in Washoe County that has been challenged for many, many years. And, you know, after multiple conversations with the Reno Rodeo and our staff and then staff at Washoe County, This is just going to be the right thing to do for Reno Rodeo and all the equestrian events, being that parking is such a challenge at the Livestock Event Center and has always been. This will provide for that southwest corner of the property to be truly used now for flex space and allow them to do many, many different things through pop-up tents and for a lot of the events that come in. So this will hopefully help. And Ms. Leach, since you're here in the audience, would you like to add anything to this discussion? Come on up here, please. I'm bringing you up, so come on up. Ms. Leacher is our resident expert down at
Rhonda Leach, for the record. I agree wholeheartedly that the building is a blight to the property, and with it going away, it will open up more opportunities for other events.
Fantastic, thank you. All right.
One point of order, sir.
Yes.
Is it if we tear down the Armory, will then the Livestock Event Center control the use of the property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it will. It will be, hopefully we be paved and, paved over, and we'll figure out how that works out. All right, looking for a motion at this time. I have a motion for Mr. Murdoch. Do I have a second? Second for Mr. Wowo. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, we are on to the CAFR. Presentation and opinion and findings of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, otherwise known as the CAFR, for the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2018, and containing the auditor's required communication letters. Mr. Chisel.
All right. For you today is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Per Nevada revised statutes, all Nevada local governments must provide an annual audit by a professional accounting firm. This 2017-18 financial audit has been completed by Eide Bailey, and with us today is Felicia Carroll, partner with Eide Bailey and Pamela Truss, and is presented for your acceptance. The authority received an unqualified opinion from Eide Bailey that concludes that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the authority. There are a couple of items to note as we go through it. There was a change in accounting principle as discussed in notes A and K in the financial statements. We adopted the provisions of GASB statement number 75 in regards to post-employment benefits other than pensions. Also, there was a correction of an error. Those of you that are in Washoe County, City of Sparks, and City of Reno will see the same thing in your financials. The Public Employees Retirement System changed the methodology of reporting the pension liability, and so there was a correction of error in our financial statements to take that into consideration. Approval by the board and approval of the state plan of corrective action is required to be submitted to the Department of Taxation to address the violation of statutes that may have been discovered during the audit, and is presented as a separate document. We're requesting the board approve the acceptance of the financial report and the corrective action.
Any discussions on the CAFR at this time? Mrs. Truss, would you like to say anything this morning, Pam? No? Either? Nope? Okay. All right, any discussion? Seeing none? Oh, Mr. Dillard?
These portable mics are pretty nice.
Well, we try to be, for you. It's a big deal.
Well, I just want to say that to the team, I think it's always just an assumption that there will be an unqualified opinion, but it's never a given and it's not easy. And so kudos to you and the team for accomplishing that, and move for approval.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Dillard. Do I have a second? I have a second from Mr. Murdoch. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're trucking right along. Ms. Cunningham, we are on to item G1. Would you like to take that? Or Esther's going to take that. Hi, Esther.
Thank you. Good morning. Esther Isaac for the record. In your report, in your reports, you have a statement or an executive report on the renewal of the research contract with EMC Research. EMC has been our research company since 2008, and over the course of that time has done a number of our research projects. They currently work very closely with BBK, our integrated marketing agency, so we have a very good symbiotic relationship. We're moving into 2019 to do our visitor profile study, which we haven't done since 2015. And for continuity, of data and projects, we'd like to recommend that this contract is renewed.
Marvelous. Any discussions by the board? Seeing none discussion, looking for a motion. I have a motion from Mr. Wowo, second by Mr. Murdoch. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? We are on to item G2. This is the review, discussion, and possible action to approve and exercise by RSCVA of its option to renew the lease with the Incline Village General Improvement District, otherwise known as IVGID, for the property located at 969 Tahoe Boulevard, Incline Village. Mr. Chisel, do you want to do this?
Before you today is the lease for the thank you, Incline Village Crystal Bay visitors.
Andy, will you stand up and correct these two?
Yeah, I'm
because they
sorry.
evidently they don't know what the heck. Obviously, they don't know how to talk. What your organization is.
I wanted to say IVGID, and I knew that was.
It's not IVGID.
Yeah,
it
no.
is not. It is
but
not
it
IVGID.
is the lease is through IVGID for the Incline Village Crystal Bay Visitors Bureau, and what we're looking at is extending the lease at another $1 a year. But the one change was that they will clearly state that they are responsible for the maintenance and operation of the building. They have been responsible for the maintenance and operation, but it had not clearly been delineated in the agreement, and so that's the main change that took place.
And Andy, you have anything to add other than?
No, I think that's all accurate. And again, thank you for that opportunity. One item that we did work with Phil and Ben Kennedy on to make sure we clarify, because the lease in 1984 was prior to the construction of the visitor center park that surrounds the building and the parking lot. That happened in 1988, and that was an agreement between Washoe County and IVGID, and IVGID is responsible for the maintenance of the grounds that the park situates on. So we just wanted to make sure we were clear that we're responsible for the maintenance of the building and the parking lot, and we always have been. At least from my records looking at that and going back to Bill Hoffman's time as well. So we just wanted to make sure we were clarifying that, yes, we're responsible for the maintenance for the building and the parking lot, but that does not do anything to remove IVGID's responsibility for the surrounding park.
Great.
Which we got to that, I think. And
All right.
our legal counsel, Gino Manchetti, took a look at it, and we're comfortable with it all. So again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. All right. Seeing any discussion by the board. Mr. Wood, this is in your neck of the woods.
I move that we approve the lease going forward.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Wood. A second. I'm looking for second from Mr. Lawson or Mr. Murdoch. Oh, good. Second from Mr. Murdoch. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. All right, let's take a brief recess. We're going to get set up here for the next part, which is the board retreat and strategic plan update. So we're going to be in recess for about. It is now 8:44. We'll be back here right before 9 o'clock. So let's take about 10, 15 minutes. Buddy, this is the second part of today's meeting. This is where the meeting kind of shifts. We go from the formal, rigmarole kind of garbage that we usually participate at the RSCVA to a little bit more fun and an interactive manner of what we're going to be doing this morning. So this is obviously the strategic retreat and board retreat for us, and this is kind of a second. I'd like to call this maybe our second round, third round, kind of ish. But really, what this is the most important about this retreat is that this is the first time we've got our full executive team here. We're ready to rock and roll. We've got our great, strong board members. We've got wonderful stakeholders from the community. Marilee Mora, where is she? Oh, I was going to say Marilee was here, but I got the other team here. Hassan, can you stand up, please? Hassan from the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority is here, and can you introduce who's with? Trish? Hi, Trish. So we've got members from the Reno Tahoe Airport are here. Andy Chapman, as you know, from the Incline Village Crystal Bay Visitors Authority in the back. Daryl Plummer, hi, with the Chamber. Good morning, Daryl. Thanks for coming. Appreciate having you here. We've got all of our executive team. So for Reno Sparks Convention Authority, RC members, can you please stand up? All of our staff, everybody, Chelsea, you included, staff, Rhonda. These are all our staff members here for RSCVA. They're going to participate in the conversation. SMG, thank you, staff. SMG staff, can you please stand up really quick? I've got my SMG staff here, and all they're going to help us talk about operations in here in a little bit. And so, Mr. McGinnis from the Peppermill, obviously, I mean, not Peppermill, I'm sorry, Atlantis. Pat just thought, he goes, did I get a new employee? What happened? Pat Flynn, Steve Squager from the Peppermill are here. We're glad to have you guys here, and hopefully you can be part in the conversation. Mr. Andrew Diss from the GSR, love to have you. Thanks for coming. Jesse Wadhams, Jason Hidalgo, he's our wonderful, he's our reporter, the man that gives everything that we need to hear about in the paper. Ben McDonald's back there chewing on stuff. He's having breakfast. It's okay. Oh, and Wendy from Excel Media. Thank you. Wendy, I didn't see you, but Jason's, Carl's hat's so tall, it's really tough to see you behind there. So. Oh, okay. So I'm sorry, Neil Rivera. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you for coming. So, anyways, if those I didn't miss, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to miss you. I lack names. My Rolodex and my brain's short. But anyways, today's meeting is all about strategic plan. We really want to have a discussion today. We're going to have some good information from all of our staff members. We're going to go over some different things, but really what I want this to be is an interactive. And as you can see, Erica Olson, who is the woman of the hour, who's going to help us walk through all the discussion today, and with what she's done for us over the last 3 years with On Strategy has been tremendous, and I look forward to today's conversation. But we've set the room up a little bit differently. It's not this table that we're all going to sit in a U and talk across. Really what I want, and where you're all sitting in swivel chairs, is so we can turn around and get feedback from the stakeholders, and feedback from you, and really find out, is the direction that we're going the right direction? What are we doing here at the RSCVA that we're proud of, what we see that we've changed, and really what we can be doing going forward? 3 years ago, a selectman, a few of you got the privilege to sit up at Lake Tahoe with us, and we did this first strategic plan. And since that strategic plan, we fought, we played with dots. John Farahi yelled at everybody for using dots. I promise no dots today. But what came out of that was this amazing plan that brought us to where we are today. You've all had a copy of that. You've all got hopefully an opportunity to read that. And it's given us direction to really change this organization. We brought on Mr. DeLone as our CEO. He has led this organization under that strategic plan, and we've changed our brand marketing. We changed our operations. We've done a mass of things. We've opened ourselves up. We landed 2 major pieces of citywide business for years. Things are changing in RSCVA, but not only here at RSCVA, they're changing here in the county. Washoe County in northern Nevada is getting a resurgence that we haven't seen in many, many years to come. Very much thankful to Madam Mayor and Councilman Lawson, with all the respective political agencies that participate in this. We've been really pushing this economic development and growth. And as a tourism and convention business, it's our job to really capture that business and make sure that those individuals have a great quality of life experience here, and that when they come here, they see everything the best that there is to Washoe County and Reno Sparks, and Tahoe for that matter. So, with that being said, I want to turn this over. We'll get started. I'm going to give the floor to Mr. DeLone. He's going to start us off with a brief kind of entrance into what's going to happen today, and then Erica will take us kind of through some of the basic fundamental guidelines on how we're going to proceed throughout the morning for discussion. So with that, Mr. DeLone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Erica Olson, for those of you who don't know Erica is one of the principals at On Strategy, which was engaged a number of years ago to guide the RSCVA through a strategic plan process. It's not only a process for the board and the staff of the RSCVA, but also for many of you involved in the community, from the Airport Authority to our partners around the lake and others. And we hope that you in the audience today engage with us, ask questions, provide commentary, give observations, because this is your opportunity to speak and voice your opinion or observations. We've come a long way in the last few years. We have I feel, one of the strongest sales teams in the nation in convention and tourism sales, and that's thanks to Art and Michael's leadership. You have assembled a great team, not only of employees here in Reno, but for those of you who are not aware, we have 8 employees around the nation who work in the association and corporate sales arena, and they've done an exceptional job in a short period of time. We have our branding and our marketing on track through Esther and Jennifer's involvement and leadership. We have our buildings and public facilities on the right track. Unlike many convention authorities around the nation, we operate a lot of unique buildings, not only the convention center here, which is the 39th largest center in the United States, but also we have a unique facility in the Livestock Event Center, which you know about, and of course the Reno Event Center and Bowling Stadium. And last year we made a milestone change, and we engaged our partners and friends at SMG from Philadelphia to take over the day-to-day management and operations of those buildings. And you will hear from Greg Karen, who's sitting here in front of me, the Executive Vice President, and John Adams, the Regional Vice President from Denver, who will provide some commentary today. So with that, Erica, I'm going to turn it back to you, and
all right.
Why don't you begin to lead us through this wonderful process
I will
today.
do my best. All right, good morning, everyone. Mike, will you turn it down just a little? Thank you. Okay, so as the chair said and Mr. DeLone said, we are setting up today to be a little bit different, to be conversational, not a bunch of presentations. That's why we set up the room the way that we did. So looking forward to all of your input and feedback. Of course, because it's a public meeting, we do have our mics, so we want to hear from everybody in the room, and we have folks that have mics to pass around, so feel free to jump up and grab them and add to the conversation. Thanks for being here and thanks for your time. We know it's precious. So let's kind of walk through just a little bit what we're trying to get done today. As Bob said, we started this planning process in 2015, and plans are only as good as the decisions and the day-to-day actions that a staff takes and the board directs. And this is an example of a plan that actually is working as a management tool to guide this organization, and it's pretty cool to see where we are today with it. And so that doesn't always happen. And today, unlike when we were in Tahoe, there aren't such huge high-stakes conversations. There's some direction that we absolutely need to make sure that the organization's on the right track. There's some choices and some decisions to weigh in on. But as Bob said, we're not doing sticky dots because there's not such controversial discussions, I would say. So that's nice. We're not packed with an agenda. We've got a nice amount of time to have a good discussion on these items. We're looking for the board's direction and our stakeholders' feedback on, we set a future state for the organization that is in alignment, of course, with the community overall. Are we headed in the right direction? Is that still where we want to go? We'll get a quick update on what's going on with the expansion, as well as hear from SMG about what their outlook and thoughts are, having been our partners for a little bit now, and what they're seeing. And then we'll be looking to hear from sales and marketing and facilities, hear what the priorities are. Here's the progress we've made. Here's where we're going. Are we on the right track? Should we dial it up or dial it down? And there's some funding to work with. So we're looking for the board's feedback around the proposals that are coming forward related to the use of those funds. Are we in range? Is there something we're missing? What are we thinking about? So that's where we're headed. So teeing that up a little bit, just like we did before, as we know, this plan is about the utilization of the resources of the RSCVA, specifically related to the surcharge. So we're kind of checking in on that to say, hey, here's where we are with it, and what does it look like going forward? So anything else to add about?
Just a quick point of order. If you do speak today, and we do encourage everybody to speak, I do want to hear from everybody. I'd like if you come up and utilize the mics, and we'll be passing those around. Just please state your name and maybe the organization that you're with prior to your comment, so that we can keep it on public record, and this is still a public meeting and an open meeting that we've got to maintain certain protocols. So that would be the only thing that I would ask, is that you just do put your name and who you're with prior to those conversations. But other than that, let's have a good meeting. Let's have a good retreat. Let's talk some serious business, and let's get through this, huh? All right.
Cool. Moving along. So this is our flow for the day. Just really quickly, we'll spend a little bit of time getting grounded on the core purpose. We're clear on that. But from a future state perspective, this plan is intended to get us somewhere different than where we were in 2015. What does that look like? How are we doing? Where are we going? Mr. Chisel's going to come up and talk a bit about what the financial forecast looks like, because what are the resources we have to work with. And then we will hear what should be there, importantly. Before the SMG briefing, we dig into facilities. Mr. DeLone's going to give us an update on the expansion project. We'll hear from SMG. We'll talk a little bit more about what you're thinking about from a facilities perspective, and then we'll dig into sales, marketing, and then sales, and wrap it up looking at what the priorities look like, proposals around how we might fund those priorities, and see what else is on deck. Lunch is at 12:30, so that's what we're headed for. So we'll be done. We'll close this meeting at 12:30, and then we'll adjourn for lunch, and we'll take a break between here and there. All right, moving along. From a board perspective, how we're making decisions today, we're not moving for any formal votes, so we are looking for unanimous consensus from the board. So the chair is going to help me with that. Consensus is I may not agree with it, but I can live with it. And we're looking for directionally correct. So all of these decisions will come back for a formal board motion at a later time. Okay? Awesome. We'll be taking notes over here. So this is our digital flip chart, capturing your feedback and discussion, so just so you know why we're doing that. And then when we're done, we'll have kind of a summary of your feedback, and Mr. Chisel's going to walk us through maybe a dynamic use of what the funds are looking like, and see how that actually shakes out real time. So, all right. Jumping in for a minute, we did get in advance the update to the strategic plan, that 14-page document, if you had a chance to read it. Let's make sure we're grounded on any questions that you might have. I'm just going to start with the mission statement for a minute, not because we need to have a long conversation about the mission statement, but rather to make sure we're clear about the fact that we know the scope of the RSCVA is responsible for attracting overnight visitors to the properties in our region, growing visitation, running efficient operations, and that's all about growing the economic might and the quality of life here. So I think that's really important when we look at all the priorities that this organization potentially could take on. We want to make sure that we're in the scope of the mission of the organization. So that's just a grounding point. Any questions about that? I think that's all fairly straightforward. This mission's been in place for quite some time, so really straightforward in that regard. Let's talk about the vision for a minute. So I think that this can be a little obtuse sometimes, but we didn't do that with this vision. The vision itself, the premier year-round Western destination, has been in place for a while too, but what we did do as part of this process, starting in 2015, is we did a bottom-up forecast around, directed by the board, around what are the specific targets, what's going to be different quantitatively in 5 years based on the use of the resources, specifically from the surcharge, that's going to make an impact in what this organization is charged to do, which is grow visitation, grow room nights, and compression related to that. So this super busy chart shows a couple of things, but the key thing that I want to point out is there's 3 targets on here. Target number 1 are the bars, which are the room nights. Target number 2 is the sister metric, which is overall occupancy. And then target number 3 is the growth of ADR. So this was a huge data-driven process that took an inordinate amount of time. And of course, at the end of the day, it's just a hypothesis. It was just based on what we knew at the time, what was going on in the economy, what the business was looking like, et cetera. But you can kind of see where the targets were, in the $100 range for ADR, 70% occupancy, and, ahead of 4 million room nights per year. So we're 3 years into this plan. How are we doing? You look at this data with the scorecard every month, so I know we're well versed in it, but it's nice to zoom out for a quick sec. These are the actuals versus forecast. The actuals are in the darker bar and the forecast is in the lighter bar. The specific numbers don't matter too much other than to say that we're outpacing the forecast with the actual number of room nights at 1.4 closing last year, fiscal year 17-18. And our target at the end of the planning period was 4.2. So again, we're pacing a bit ahead on that. And I would welcome Mr. Larraguette to jump in on this at any point. Our occupancy target, again, it's a sister metric, of course, but the idea was to sustain a 70% occupancy target. So this year it hit 72%. So again, nice to see that. And then from an ADR perspective, closing last year, 109 was the average ADR. So point is we're outpacing where we thought we would be, which is nice. And that begs the question a little bit as we're sitting here today, should we think about reforecasting the vision? And with the executive team and the feedback, the suggestion was let's sustain it. Let's sustain where we are. Also, given what Mr. DeLone teed up in relation to the economic dynamics that are in place right now, as well as the expansion in play, those are pretty big factors that will likely impact what the forecast looks like. So today, the suggestion is let's not have a big conversation about what the future state might look like and reforecast it. Let's maintain it and sustain it. I'm going to pause for a minute, but I often say that we don't need a strategic plan if the future isn't intended to be different than it is today. So let's make sure that the board agrees with that proposal, that we keep the vision as it is, focus on those targets, and not reforecast today.
So this is kind of that stopping point where we really are going to try to engage you guys to have these conversations. And so I don't want to force anybody, but I'm going to. Do it as a board, do you think we've made substantial changes from a standpoint of successes that we need to make substantial changes to how we're going forward? Anybody? There's Shivi. I'm going to put you on the spot. You're right now.
Go first. Well, honestly, I'm really proud of the work that we've done, and I think we've taken a lot of chances. And if you don't take chances, then you don't get that sort of reward. I think it was 4 years ago that we sat in this room and unveiled some really scary, challenging advertising, right? And incredibly out of date too. But thanks to Jennifer and everyone being, taking a lot of bold steps. I do think, we have to do the same thing looking into the future, and maybe going after markets. I mean, you're seeing Las Vegas, like with the LGBTQ community, things like that, really kind of broadening what we do.
Starting to be a little bit more innovative, trying to broaden our horizons, kind of go after some new markets, stuff that we've never seen before, and being a little bit different. And I like that. I think that's exactly where we are, and I think we should be a little bit more creative and innovative as we move forward. Mr. Murdoch, coming from the airport and, being the chairman of the airport authority, and as it pertains to compression and being, an executive for El Dorado Resorts, give me your feedback. Where do you think what we're doing?
I think one of the really most important things that this group did, started with, use this thing.
No, that we can hear you enough.
You can hear me.
There you go.
Okay, anyway, I think most importantly what this community did is they raised their room rates. And you always heard this for years and years, we got to act our room rate, and we never did, we were always low. Now it's really seeing these room rates come of age is really helping all of us. And I don't care what destination, whether you go to Stockton or you go to you're paying, our rooms are as equally, if not nicer than theirs, and we're still a good bargain, quite honestly. So I kind of believe we've grown up as a whole community to charge the right amount for our rooms.
Well, and I think you're right. We've seen in this community, and I'm going to just throw a number out there, but almost $500 million in improvements on all the properties. Every property that in this area has put money into their property to improve and make it better. Grand Sierra, the Nugget, I mean, El Dorado, the Peppermill, Atlantis, even Harris has spent a lot of money in the last 5 to 10 years to really push forward this market. And what can RSCVA continue to do? And I think what we are seeing is that through our strategic plan, we're going to continue to try to elevate that business for these people and continue to drive compression, continue to drive the sales goals here, and really make sure that our marketing and our sales efforts really complement what's happening in the market. And so as long as we can continue to do that, and this board feels that we're on the right track, I think that we're going to continue to push forward. So like I said, it's a good thing. And Rick?
A couple other comments is you also, the RSCVA, the new RSCVA, it has really, it's a leader in the community, but also you have the airport, the other leader in the community. And I think you know, what a great relationship you have fostered now with the airport. But it still really comes down to a product, comes down to air service, comes down to the right advertising. I mean, we looked at the budgets yesterday, and you know, we always want more advertising. We always want to keep our products fresh and renovated and things. But allowing us to do this is this whole, the two, I would say, the engines of our community, the airport and the RSCVA. So I think we can't ever underestimate how important those flights are and how important it is
Absolutely.
to have a great box out here, great experience downtown, great Tahoe experience, to get Sparks experience, to get people to Reno Tahoe.
The renovations at the airport have been tremendous. I mean, from the Escape Lounge to they just opened Vinvolo there, many things that are happening. And I had a good friend of mine fly in from Washington, D.C. last night. He said it was the busiest he's seen the airport in weeks or in months, and he travels here quite frequently. And he said it was unbelievable. It was packed, and that's the kind of buzz we want to see. But it's not just having a partnership, as you say, Rick, with the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, but it's having partnerships with the Chamber and with Miss Ann Silver and Mr. Plummer. It's having relationships with Regional Transportation Commission. It's having the economic drives by both cities, making sure that they're involved and that we're talking to these community members, because our compression to our community and our visitor rates and what's happening is all a larger product of the bigger pie. And so we need to do whatever we can to keep that going. So it's continuing to get, and that's why we've invited you to hear all the stakeholders to kind of continue in that conversation. What is that going to look like going forward? So I think we've got some good feedback there, and I think so. Let's go on. Let's take a next step.
Okay, so just really quickly, and I don't want to go through all of this, but so there's the targets that we, the Royal We, set for ourselves in terms of what success looks like in 5 years and where we're headed. And it's also nice to see, so how are we doing compared to the industry? And this is part of the scorecard every month too, but I just wanted to point out a couple of quick things because it is kind of a lot of data. We know there's two perspectives here, the market overall and then the group business specifically compared to the comparative markets, tier 1s and tier 2s. And Mike, ask for your help on this, and Howard, if I screw anything up here. So overall, if we are looking at, where's my little clicker here? That right there.
So Mike, come on, why don't you come up here, Mike? Mike, there's a mic right here. Come on up.
Mike, there's
That one works. Or
bring it
do
on
that.
down. That's
Whatever.
right.
Better to walk and talk, right?
Yeah.
So
A little bit down, right?
Yeah, we were asked by several of the stakeholders to basically report on how were we holding against our competitive set. So we took a consensus from the team and we identified both tier 1 and tier 2 cities here who we compete against. And on a monthly basis, we receive this report, STR report, which we do provide to all our stakeholders, and it really gauges us against how we are looking versus in the group segment in tier 1 and tier 2, both on occupancy, ADRs, RevPAR, occupancy extra, ADR, and RevPAR for the percentage change year over year. So a lot of valuable information. I think that the numbers show that we are doing quite well. It does change month to month based on the business that's coming into the market and consumes. But we'll love your feedback in terms of, one, do you think we're identifying the right cities? Do you think that we are putting ourselves against the right cities in tier 1 and tier 2? Are there cities you'd like to see added to that, whether it's from the Peppermill or the Atlantis or the Row? Is there somebody you'd like to see us get that information from?
Mr. Wobo.
Yes, sir.
Quickly, almost to build up on kind of the conversation that Rick introduced around air service think looking at this, at our tier 1 and tier 2, it'd be nice to even understand what they're doing in retrospect to what we're doing in supporting air service to, or providing dollars and service and support to their airports to help create air service. Because as we're talking about it, I was just back in Seattle last night, flew back last night, and when I got off the plane in Seattle, I saw our billboard of a tile. I took a picture of it and was really just inspired by it. So if there's a way to even understand what they're doing to support their airports, and just to give us an idea, do we need to increase that? Do we need to do more? Are we not doing enough? Are we doing too much? I doubt that it's too much, because I don't think there's ever too much when you're supporting a partner that brings in visitors. So just understanding that would be greatly beneficial.
Yeah, maybe I defer to Hassan and Trish. I don't, maybe you guys may know from your experience what other airports receive in terms of support from their communities in marketing support.
So I'm sure you can hear me, right? Yes. Well, thank you so much. My name is Hassan Azam, Manager of Air Service Development and Business Cargo for the Airport Authority. So the Tier 1 market groups that you see, we do see Anaheim, we do see Austin, Denver's, and Salt Lake Cities of the world, right? So these are big markets. If you look at the population base of those markets versus us, they're significantly bigger, right? So they have additional funding. From the CVB's perspective, I'm not sure I have enough information at this time, but we can do some research. But from the air service development side, every airport has an incentive program, and so do we from the Airport Authority. But what these airports don't have is Regional Air Service Corporation. So we got to focus on that. We got to make sure that we continue to move forward and keep on funding that.
Thank you, Son. You know, I think, and we're going to get into that a little bit deeper dive this afternoon with marketing as it pertains to what we're going to do in some of these markets and how we continue to elevate that business. But I think one thing I don't want to lose focus on this slide in regards to the group markets that we fall within is that based upon the Tier 1 and Tier 2 markets, are there markets out there that we feel that we should be identified? Obviously, we've always talked about our driver markets along the western coast, you know, what can get to us easier. But are there markets that you're looking at as you look at that list? Albuquerque, Indianapolis, Louisville, Minneapolis, Phoenix, Sacramento, San Antonio, and San Jose, and Seattle. Are there other markets, you know, that we should be looking at that we can start maybe harnessing some tourism business from? And maybe Mr. Jimenez can enlighten us a little bit later. But I want to keep that in front of your mind as we continue this conversation. Is there something else we should add? So. But I think
just one last comment as it relates to this slide. So if you look at the group mix percentage, and Reno's holding at 19.2 for this particular time period, and to Chairman Lucy's point of we may not have some cities on here that we may want to look at. So you don't see Las Vegas on there. Ironically, I think everybody in this room would be surprised to know that the percentage of mix that comes from the group segment in Las Vegas is around 16%, actually lower than what we're doing in Reno. As it relates to the ADRs, like to Mr. Murdoch's comment, we have seen that, and I'm getting ahead of myself in my presentation later, but as we have opened new markets, we're hiring new people, and we're attracting new customers. And what I've seen transition in the almost 2 years that I've been with the Bureau is that those customers have an expectation to pay a higher rate. They pay a higher rate in the other cities they're going to, and the team that we're hiring is used to selling a higher rate. So it's starting to work, and the pieces are coming together in the puzzle, and we're starting to see the results of those efforts.
Great. Mr. Dillon.
I was just going to ask Mike if we get to a point in our planning where we talk about ADR, because what jumps off the screen there to me is that in our comp set, we're still significantly lower than everyone else in ADR. And even though we might have raised it at one point, I mean, I think we need to figure out how we take it to the next level. Even.
Yes, completely agree. And of course, we from the Bureau don't control pricing per se, right? We are sourcing business, we are sourcing out to all our stakeholders, and then they are determining what price points they feel. But I think it's, you know, it's the old tide rises, all boats rise, right? So.
Yeah, I think.
And are we doing something wrong or different, or why are we so far below the comp set? I guess is what I'm
specifically it relates to the group segment. And this is just my personal opinion. I think we are still in that transition from where we were in the old Reno and buying the business and heads and beds mentality to where we are now looking at profitability and what is that profit of that guest from that segment. And we're still getting through that, right? So as we migrate from we have to run 95% and we have to have that every day and all year long versus maybe 85 or 80% is acceptable at a higher rate with a better customer that is more profitable.
So, all right. Carl.
Yeah, Carl Lovato with Reno Air Service Corporation, and I've also been a tourism industry strategist for a long time, and I think this is the fundamental crux that we in the region have to deal with. Are we going to begin to look at yield, or are we going to look at share? And that's a strategic transition that everybody in the region has to begin to consider. Because if you want to get that room right up, you're going to have to look at attracting people who are willing to pay more, are used to paying more, and so forth. And so that goes back to the original strategy goal. When you look at the RSCVA, try not to look at them as a DMO, but consider them as a value creation organization. How do they create value for this region? And if you have a $5 billion tourism economy, the question you should be asking is, in my opinion, is how do you make it a $10 billion tourism economy? And that should begin to drive some of these discussion points of share versus yield. And I think that transitions the thinking into share versus yield versus how we differentiate, how we attract. And I think that's a broader range discussion that might be worth having at some point.
Great comments, and I think that's exactly where we wanted to get to today. How do we create that greater value for our region, utilizing the tool from the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority? So, and I think we're going to get through that a lot. There will be a lot of prompts for those conversations as we move along. So, Erica, you want to move
on? Moving along. I think we pulled out the key points from this, so let's just jump ahead. So again, the plan then transitions into 4 strategic priorities, the areas of focus for the organization, super targeted, and they're pretty much expected, I would say. Growing visitation and destination awareness, direct room night growth, running the facilities efficiently, and running a great sustainable organization. We're going to dig into the top 3 today and have conversations in that area because that's what we're looking for board and community feedback on. We should be familiar with these because they're the same as they have been. So we heard from the board members what you wanted to talk about today and direction that you provided us and the individual feedback you gave us coming into this retreat. So just putting it up there, letting you know that we're covering all of those items specifically and looking for your direction. So
Erica, can we back up 2 slides really quick? You know, and one more right here. You know, these are our current strategic priorities. Does the board feel that obviously we've kind of attained an organizational sustainability? Do we need to keep that as a strategic priority? Can we take that off? Can we move away from that? What's the board's feeling on that? Ed?
You have to have that sustainability, but is it an equal partner? Probably not. I mean, it needs to be something that's watched on the bottom line, but it's probably not our #1 goal.
Yeah, because I think 3 years ago when we wrote this, we were in a state of disarray. We had just lost we fired our CEO. We had an interim CEO that was taking care of it, but we were going through a major transition. It was a focus at the time. I think we've made some major strides. I think we all agree, and we feel we have a very strong executive team. I just don't think it should be one of our focuses as a strategic priority anymore. And so maybe if we continue to keep it in there, but I just want to see where it plays in the role.
I think that's an important point. So these are not all created equal. They're not prioritized per se. So let's just acknowledge that for a quick second. I think what this has done, though, from kind of a comprehensive view of making sure that all parts of the organization are covered. So what's interesting about what's in there as well is all of the work that Phil and the team does with community outreach and
so maybe we
community
tweak it.
partnerships.
So let's alter it and maybe tweak that understanding so that it's maybe not organizational sustainability in-house, but how we do outreach within the community and how we can continue to force through policy, force our team to interact not only within the community but nationwide. Something like that. Does that seem?
I agree with that, Mr. Lucy. I think it's important, though, as Mr. Murdoch was saying, the reputation in the community comes from how strong our organization is and the professionalism of the executive team and all of the employees. So I think it's important to keep that as a priority as well.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mr. Rowland.
Yeah, I would actually, I think I might be an odd duck here. I actually would disagree. I think one of the biggest things that make Microsoft as great as it has been over the last 5 years is our dedication to empowering employees and keeping that as one of our strategic efforts to continue to do, because that grows the organization organically and not just through systematic organizational behavioral efforts, I guess. So kind of to that point, I would almost say that there should be almost a fifth one that's kind of outside of this. Maybe that means that organizational stability gets knocked down to number 5 or whatever that may be. But going back to some recurring themes that I continue to hear as we're having this discussion is that in order for us to be able to raise ADR, in order for us to attract new visitors, we're going to need to make it more of an attractive destination. Maybe I just address an elephant in the room, is that we're not going to get the $200 rate if we don't have enough to support our community. So what are our efforts doing in the community is very different from our organizational sustainability. But again, maybe I may be the one odd duck in the room, seeing it from a different perspective.
No odd ducks. And that's why this is discussion. I mean, we want to have these discussions. And like I said, if the stakeholders see differently or have a different opinion to that, I'd like to hear it. But I think maybe, outreach to the community is something that we continue to do. And how do we involve our key partners, Regional Transportation Commission, Chamber a little bit more? How do we deal with these things? And so we address a lot of these issues within the community that we can help as an organization. Now that we've got our ducks in a row, let's figure out how we can go help within the community. So maybe we'll add that into the priorities. So I'm sorry.
And so for purposes of today, if it's okay with the board, we'll take that feedback back and we'll kind of flesh it through with the team.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, I think the direction's clear. How we structure it, we'll deal with that offline.
Carl Roboto again and again. I'm sorry, but I got to just throw in here, and Jennifer knows how to put up with me. But I'd like to speak to strategic priorities 1 and 2. 1, I think I would recommend the board consider as a priority not just awareness, but it's influence you're after. That's the DMO's job, is influencing people to make decisions at the top of the funnel to come to the destination. And I think somewhere you might want to make mention of that. And I think strategic priority number 2 gets to the exact discussion of room night growth or revenue growth. And how do you want to deal with that particular issue? Because right now, that direct room night growth is a share strategy. But if you're looking at a revenue growth strategy, you might want to adjust that a little bit. And so I think this is going to drive everything else in the organization. So it might be wise to have some of that discussion at the appropriate time.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you for indulging me in that.
Awesome. Okay, we're moving along. We already talked about that. That's fine. Mr. Chisel is going to walk us through specifically the financial outlook. And I do believe in the binders that you were provided, the financial outlook as a snapshot. If you don't have it, just throw up your hand and Corey will get it to you because the slide's a little hard to see. There you go.
All right, Robert Chisel. These are the financial policies that the board, you all adopted when you adopted the strategic plan. And I'm going to just kind of quickly go through them. The key point for them, as you see underneath, is where we are with this current year's budget. As you all remember, when you adopted your budget in May of this year, all of these financial policies were met. So you have met all these strategic priorities of financial. So good job. 1, general fund reserves, minimum of 10% of expenditures. That's pretty important because we are a single source revenue stream. Room tax is our primary source, so it's important to have those reserves for downturns and blips in the economy. Capital reserve account of at least $1 million. We have that set aside currently today. Debt sinking fund, 15% of room tax revenues in excess of $22 million. We had put 1.699 million in. Actually, it came in at 1,750,000 for the year. And probably in February, you'll see the defeasance of another $1.7 million of bonds that we have outstanding. Again, we're trying to pay off our debt earlier than had originally been scheduled. So that's a good thing. Rainy day fund of $1 to $2 million. We put aside $1 million in that rainy day fund. Annual capital funding, that one's a little bit different. 10% of all room tax collections up to $2.5 million. If our buildings were up to speed where they should be, $2.5 million would probably be enough to keep our buildings going. And when I say buildings, we're really talking about this convention center and the Reno Sparks Livestock Events Center. Fortunately, our partners at the City of Reno own and maintain the capital for the bowling stadium and the Reno Events Center. And in fact, they just awarded last month, I don't know if it's been announced to all of you, the renovation of the 4th floor of the bowling stadium. It's about a $3.8 million project, and we thank them for that. So it's going to be under renovation for quite some time. So this year we had $4.1 million in capital, and a lot of that was because our buildings, we had, during the downturn and during periods before that, kind of had neglected our buildings and not had kept them up to where they should be. So we're playing kind of a little bit of catch up. Air Service Fund, $1.5 million. We did budget $1.5 million for Airlift Fund in our budget for this fiscal year. Any thoughts or questions on any of these?
I just want to make a quick comment. So this was really important and instrumental when we started the planning process in the context of maintaining the financial health of the organization and having these essentially funded first. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah, and
okay.
I mean, from a fiscal standpoint, I mean, these are like gold. I can't, you know, it lets me sleep better at night. It's a great goals to have, and to have met them is amazing and feels really good. So.
Robert, how do you interpret the air services and the $1.5 million support to new airlift? Is that, you're saying that that's the minimum or the maximum balance we're going to have in there?
Well, that is what we're going to budget each year for Airlift, $1.5 million. So we budgeted $1.5 million in there. Doesn't mean we're going to spend it all, because it would be depending on.
We're going to continue to add that 1.5.
Yeah. So if we spend $500,000 this year to bring in British Airways with a direct to Heathrow. Think about it. Next year, we will add that money to that fund. So yes, we will continue to, the intent is to continue to budget $1.5 million. If we spend it all, it's
in 10 years, we could have $15 million in there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does the
And I was joking about Heathrow, I know.
Let's talk about that later. But does the RASC funding come out of this line item? A Regional Air Service Corporation
No,
funding?
it does not. All right, moving along.
Moving along.
All right, this is where I lose everybody. I got it. I know it's a lot of numbers, a lot of pictures. I really did try to summarize it as much as possible. At the top, of course, is your revenues. Down in the middle is your expenditures, and then the ending revenue over expenditures and surcharge account balances, just kind of giving you an idea. Going across, the actuals 15, 16, 17, 18, and what we budgeted for 19, and so far for the first 4 months, we're pretty much on target for their budget. Actually doing a little better, but it's okay to be doing better in your budget. It always is. And it's important, I thought, just to have the last 4 years and then 4 years of forecast, just to show where we were and where we're going. So this is the budget that was adopted. What we did was, again, we're fairly conservative in our forecasting. As you know, with the market, a lot of uncertainty with the stock market, and because we are by nature a conservative group, in particular some of us, more so than others, we budgeted 1% growth in revenue, 2% in facilities, because we have our partners SMG here. We actually did a little bit more aggressive in our facility revenue. We did take into account such as the bowlers, the Open coming in 2020. So we did adjust for different events as they come along. So you'll see the numbers adjust a little bit here in the revenues. The expenditures were fiscally constrained, budget constrained. So all those budget numbers, even though they are taking into account, the Open, They were fiscally constrained at a small 1% growth also. The capital down here, the capital is based on the CIP, the capital improvement plan that the board adopted in April. We will plan on updating that yearly, but that is where those numbers are coming from. Some of these other items, just going through here, the transfer to the Incline Village Crystal Bay Visitors Bureau is based on the room tax collections. Debt is the actual debt payments, with the extra money going in for the defeasance of the bond. So that's why you see kind of the weird numbers floating around there. Contingency, we did put contingency in because, again, we're conservative and we want to make sure we have a contingency. So that gives you a total revenue over expenditures. And right here, you're going to see for the next 4 years, positive numbers. This year, you see a negative number. A lot of that is being driven by the surcharge. The tourism surcharge began in fiscal year 2016. As the board adopted this strategic plan, the money hadn't actually been programmed and spent until later. So you'll see that a lot of the marketing, in fact, all the surcharge money to date has been spent on sales and marketing. This year, we budgeted $1 million in capital from the surcharge, but that's why you see the surcharge count balance was growing higher and starting to go down this year is because we started to implement and spend some of that surcharge money. And as we go forward, that we still have that available to spend in these future years. So if you go through in 20, 21, 22, 23, in the next 4 years, we have about $2.8 million that has not been spoken for, has not been allocated for continuing operations for the next 4 years total. Yeah.
4.8.
Well, there's 2.8 here, plus about 2 million of surcharge. So it comes to 4.8. I just, and part of that is we do need to keep a little bit of a fund balance in the surcharge. You can't spend every dollar you have. So there's about $4.8 million that has been unaccounted for or is available, whatever you want to, terminology you want to use. And that'll be discussed as we go further into the retreat.
I think we'll have that conversation later in the, that's going to be kind of towards the end to have a little bit more in-depth discussion
That's the
about.
stage for what we have to work with.
Thank you.
But again, just reinforcing what Mr. Chisel just said, that's over the 4-year period. So just, anchoring that.
Yeah, and and the other option I just need to throw out at probably maybe a little early, if something goes ahead with the expansion, right now we have this capital of a little $3.5 million for the next 4 years. If we did do the expansion, the way it had been discussed was money for upgrading this facility in the Reno Sparks Livestock Event Center. If that happened, that would free up a couple $1 million each year in capital. You still need some capital money. There's always, it's just, these are big buildings. These, as anyone that has those, all you resort owners know, there's always some capital that needs to take place. And so there is still some capital, but it would free up about another $5.7 million over the next 4 years. So, any thoughts, questions?
No.
We're going to get into that too. I think, just to be clear too, the forecast that you have in the out years here is maintaining the current use of the surcharge applied to marketing and sales.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Great.
Awesome.
Any further, any discussions, questions about this, about how we're moving forward financially, or GSR, Andrew Diss, Mr. Dillard?
I would just like to, I'll probably defer until the time where we get into marketing, but I do want to have some conversation about finding what's the right spot for the correct amount of spend in marketing. When I looked at 15 and we're at 3.5 million, 17 we go to 7.8, 11.3, 12.6 this coming fiscal year, and then we settle in somewhere around 10 million. Just try to kind of understand if we've, the strategic decision behind what's the sweet spot for the amount of marketing dollars.
Well, actually, now's a good time to mention that Mr. Dillard, that's because with the surcharge, we did not spend it the minute we got it, and there was a reserve, and we didn't want, when we started our advertising campaign in May of 2017, we had millions of dollars saved up, and we didn't want to dump it in right at that time. So we kind of stretched it out and did a very conscientious media buy, which was increased, but it's been spread over the last 3 years. The last 2 years, excuse me, and then moving forward. So we are still spending some of the pent-up surcharge this year, and that's why we're looking at this 12.5 million, and then it stabilizes.
All right, and I think we can have a little bit more, let's probably have
Yeah,
a little
we'll
bit
get more into-
deeper that conversation as we move into the marketing section and really kind of seeing what those opportunities are for as we move forward. And maybe as to what Erica said earlier, do we dial it up or do we dial it back?
There's never enough money in marketing.
Oh yeah, we
Just
know,
saying.
we know from you and Esther's standpoint that that's always going to be the case. However, Mr. Murdoch.
Robert, on the general administrative, is that inclusive of SMG's contract and everything? Is that
no? They fall under facilities.
They do under facilities.
So okay. They're up there. General and administrative is your heartbeat of your organization. It's the board. It's the executive office, it's HR, it's mailroom, finance, IT, that kind of stuff. So, the heartbeat.
The heartbeat.
Awesome. Okay, super. So this is the nexus of the conversation in terms of how we use our resources to drive our priorities, which is great and really clear. So we're moving into talking about that. We'll start with facilities, and then we'll go into marketing and then into sales. Starting with Mr. DeLone, can we walk through the expansion discussion, and then we'll take a break?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Super. Oh.
No?
Nope. Well, let's skip through that, and we'll go back to that. Let's do the expansion first. Yes. Yep. Cool.
There we go. Yeah, Greg, John, thanks a lot. It was a wonderful presentation. See you later.
Thank you for your presentation. Now on to facilities. Last fall, we were asked by some of our customers to take a look at expanding since their shows were expanding in size. Many of these repeat customers said, gee, we ideally in the future, we would like to see the Reno Sparks Convention Center expand. So as many of you know, we went on a multi-month process of recommending certain expansions from small to medium to large. And this past week, we ended up with the floor plan I'll show you in just a moment. This floor plan here is the existing exhibit and meeting space of the convention center as you see it today. In gray, you see the exhibit hall, the meeting rooms where we're meeting today, and so on. We are recommending a 125,000 square foot addition to the north end of the facility. This will allow us to host another approximately 600 10 by 10 exhibit booths and give us a total of 506,000 square feet of exhibition space. Currently, we have 382,000. Why 125,000 feet? We all know that we host SCI that will be here in January. That is a very, very valuable show for the community. This past Monday, the room pickup for January's show stood at just over 17,000 room nights. The show has met 20 times previously in Reno and Sparks. It's booked now for another 3 years. In 2022, they go back to Las Vegas, and then they're open to return, and they have indicated through testimony to the Nevada Resort Association that if we build an addition that meets their exhibition growth needs, that they will return for the long term. So that show alone carries $21 million in economic impact for the region, and that and Interbike and others gives us a baseline to make an investment in our convention center. This is the exact same drawing, but here in red you see that a portion of that exhibit hall will be called flex space. So it will be able to partition into 10, if not 12 different sections. It will be carpeted, and there are times where a show doesn't use all of the exhibit space, but it'll need extra breakout rooms, and this will give us the flexibility to offer a client additional breakout space. You'll also notice that we now have a master plan for our footprint here at the Convention Center. This is phase one. This is what we're going to address in the immediate future. And then in phase two, we're going to address some of the physical plant issues that exist over here on the right. If you're right now in this space, we have the F meeting rooms, which are sort of the ugly duckling meeting rooms of the facility. There's about 20,000 feet, and those meeting rooms create a small choke point between Hall 3 and Hall 4. And to fix the choke point, the architect has recommended that we rip out the F meeting rooms, replace them with a 70,000 square foot exhibit hall, and that will occur in phase two. It's very important to be very, very clear that we have not costed out any expansion possibility in phase two, nor have we identified a date. This will all be driven by what our business levels and what the market dictates at that time. Same drawing here again that demonstrates where the flex space would be in relationship to the entire facility. And also it's good to point out that if business levels at some point in the future warranted it, we would also be able to add an 85,000 square foot addition at this end if necessary. What does it cost? The initial estimate is in order to build 125,000 feet, we'll have to build 150,000 feet of construction, as we have some demolition to do at the north end. At the high side, the cost could be as much as $550 a square foot. In consultation with some cost estimators here in northern Nevada over the last few weeks and some of the construction companies, it could be as low as $350 a square foot. But for this discussion today, we went with worst case scenario. So if it was as high as $550, that project would cost $82,500,000. Soft costs are roughly 25%. Here again, the local cost estimator believes $5 million could be removed from this line item alone. But for sake of discussion today, we've left it at $20 million. What are soft costs? Those are the architectural fees, permitting, moving of sewer, moving of any high voltage power, and other site preparation. Total construction then would be at the high side, $103 million, but could be more in the $80 to $75 million range. When we bond for this construction, we would also include $20 million to retrofit the balance of the convention center. We have new carpet, we have new paint schemes, we're working on the primary bathrooms, but this building is hundreds of thousands of square feet, hasn't been touched in decades. We want to go back through the exhibit halls, back through the public areas, through the concession area, the kitchen, and touch all of those areas that need to be renovated and brought up to current standards. In addition, we would budget between $8 to $12 million to address all of the deferred maintenance and projects that have gone untouched at the Reno Sparks Livestock Events Center. As you all know, that's been a sort of a sore spot for the community, and it's time we we meet that obligation and address those needs. So the project would run somewhere between $105 million to $135 million. Here are some bullet points to, again, galvanize why we want to build this project. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
So, have you gotten the economic impact for Interbike yet?
Economic impact for Interbike. You want to address that?
Sorry. Yes, so we have bits and pieces of it. We haven't consolidated into one document. We do have the audited room count from On Peak, which is the third party that handled the Interbike blocks with all the stakeholder hotels. And then Mr. Douglas on Robert's staff has calculated the economic impact based on those room nights and the net ADR less commissions. So yes, we have, and I'm assuming we can put that out in the very near future.
Sure, we'll probably get that today.
I'm sure it's quite sizable, correct?
Yeah, I don't think it's 20. We had budgeted 18,000 room nights. They only picked up a little over 12,000.
Yeah, the total
12 million.
Yes, the
right
total
in that
pickup
range.
was just north of 12,000. That included the contracted room blocks within the participating hotels, in addition to the audit that was done to calculate all the rooms that booked outside the block. The initial economic impact that Mr. Douglas on our staff calculated was based on the nights only. And I believe that was around 9 or 10 million. But obviously that will go up when we factor in the additional rooms outside of the block.
Follow up on that. When would negotiation with Safari Club for their future participation here be?
So we had a meeting with the Nevada Resort Association yesterday, and that they were positive about the project, pending a few follow-up items that will be addressed in a phone call on Monday. Then the next process is to go introduce a bill to the Nevada State Legislature, and that bill would be introduced by the Nevada Resort Association, and final approval would come from the legislature ideally in May or early June. So the NRA is going to ask Safari Club to testify in front of the legislature as to the need for this space. But if you were to ask me when we're going to start negotiating, I would say virtually immediately. And they've already indicated that if we build it, they will come. Yeah.
You know, and another point of reference that I think we need to talk about too is that, you know, this type of expansion, there's always been challenges with this facility when we talk about our abilities to sell and compete within the set. You know, when we talk about all of the areas around us, Moscone with their additions, Sacramento, Salt Lake City, Portland, Seattle, Arizona completing an expansion. We see these sets. We have not touched this building in 20 years. It has been the same footprint, same floor plan for 20 years. And so for us to remain competitive in the set, we feel that this is the right move forward. Now, how we go about that has obviously been laid out in the master plan and will be carried out over years to come. But one of the things that was interesting to me is that immediately within this, and Michael talked more about this in a little bit, but this opens up us to, you know, potentially 8 to 12 pieces of citywide business that we were never allowed to bid on just based upon our size. Now with this future size, immediately within just phase one, we'll have 8 to 12 bids that will immediately become part, and that's where the larger community, to your point, Vic, is that we have now grown the value of the landscape around. Now we have the actual product to sell. You know, Reno spent a ton of time improving the midtown and downtown area and all the things that are going on down there. All of our properties have improved their pieces. You know, we've got airport that's improving airlift and air service. We have the business community growing around here. We've got this draw nationally to their community. We now have to have a product that we can sell, and that it lends itself to those pieces of business out there that want to come and visit Reno. Tahoe. They want to come in December. They want to come and do a conference and go skiing in Tahoe and spend and see Tahoe. They want to come in summertime and, you know, those types of markets. So those are the kinds of things that this expansion will allow us to start participating in those types of markets. And so we've got to keep that at front of mind when we're having these discussions.
Now, if that's okay, Bob, as it relates to the groups that you mentioned. So for the last 6 months, the team has aggressively been pursuing business based on the various models that were presented. And with the model that Phil presented today, with the 125,000 additional square feet, the team has identified 12 pieces of business that currently would not fit in our existing footprint, but would fit with the expansion. They have gone on record and verbally committed that with the expansion, they would include Reno Tahoe in the bid process when they come on a western side, their business comes to the western United States. Those 12 pieces of business represent approximately 160,000 room nights and $157 million in economic impact.
Huge. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Oh, Mark.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark.
So just going back to the competitive set, I guess my thought would be, wouldn't it be wise for us to consider Las Vegas a very good competitive set? I mean, I realize the data may not look that great right now, and the compares may not look that great, but two of our biggest justifications for building the expansion of the convention center is Interbike and Safari Club, which their alternative location is Las Vegas. So it would seem to me that that's a really big pond with some very good customers to go after that potentially could be getting priced out of a very aggressive market.
Absolutely. The challenge as it relates to the STR report in Las Vegas is they do not report their data. So the data as it relates to the percentage of mix of the group segment or other segments, that comes from the RSCVA, which is obviously public information. But as it relates to what Mandalay Bay does or the Venetian or MGM, they're not providing that data in that format.
So aside from the reporting, though, so is it fair to say that we're going after that business?
Of course,
very aggressively? I mean,
absolutely.
They're obviously familiar with gaming markets and used to paying higher rates, et cetera.
Absolutely, and if you look up the makeup of the team and the additional members that we've added in the last 18 years, from the gaming sector.
Thank you.
Awesome.
18 months.
All right. Any other questions about the expansion? We just want to give a quick update on that. Hearing none. Let's take a 10-minute break and get back together at 10:20.
Perfect. Get going here. So I'm going to start this presentation. So whether you're in your seats or not, I'm going to get started. So the next conversation we're going to get into this morning is I'm going to introduce Greg Carnes from SMG. And realistically, what we're going to talk about really quickly is, you know, obviously we brought on SMG in the middle of the year. They took over operations on all of our facilities. You know, I really want SMG to give you a high-level discussion about where they started from, where they're going, what that's going to look like, and really how they're going to continue to be our partner as it provides, as it relates not only to operations, but as we move forward in sales, because I know that's been a lot of the discussions, and one of the reasons we brought SMG on is because of their relationships that they have outside of just operations, but with managing companies nationwide and facilities nationwide, what they can do to boost sales and boost travel, boost the travel destination. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg.
Mr. Chairman, thanks very much. Check 1 2. There we go. Much better. As I get started, if I could ask our SMG team to just meander up this way. First, I can't do anything without starting by thanking this board, this authority, for the trust that you all have placed in us. From a personal perspective, as my team's coming up here, my first trip to Reno was literally about 30 years ago this year for an industry event that I actually did with my wife, coming from the East Coast and coming out here to do a trade show, explore the region. And my snapshots in time are almost in each of the 3 decades that have passed since then. In fact, we were here looking as a company in advance of the city's building of the new downtown event center. We were here actively just kind of monitoring things, watching the industry and seeing where things are going. I liken what we do to being brought in by helicopter and put onto a ship in the middle of the ocean. for almost any other venue that we operate. Now here, we weren't put onto a ship, we were put into the middle of a fleet, right? You have four, as Phil said earlier, four very unique venues in a very unique destination. So it's not just trying to turn one ship, it really is trying to manage each of the ships and manage them as part of a fleet. And I'm by no means a military background guy, but you get what I'm talking about in terms of the metaphor. There's a lot to get done here. One of the first promises that we made, let me just get the, if you could just leave at least the screen. One of the promises that we make to communities when we come in is sort of finding the best of all worlds. I always joke when we come in and talk about our model as a management company is, it's not like, for anybody who's old enough to remember the movie The Body Snatchers, we don't have a truckload of pods on the outskirts of town that just get brought in and just magically appear. It really is a blending of cultures and historical information and client knowledge and product knowledge, and really it is a blend of the three things that you see on the screen. It's a blend of our corporate and regional support. That's guys like myself and John Adams, who you'll meet in a minute. It's also clearly more than anything the local talent. People here for the most part are still a part of our team, and even those that have stayed on the authority side, we are still one team. We see ourselves not as an independent group, but part of the RSCVA team. We just happen to be part of your team through a subcontracted relationship. No different than Mr. Kennedy, actually. You have a law firm and you're not a full-time employee of the authority, but you have a fiduciary responsibility for the authority, and you're part of that team the same as we are. And of course, our SMG farm team. We try to integrate these three things as quickly as we can. So what I really want to do is just very quickly have you meet our team, because everybody here comes from one of these three categories, and it is about the blending of those resources, personalities, and knowledge that are going to make this a successful journey. So in no particular order.
Good morning, everyone.
you got a mic.
Dante Nicastro. I'm the general manager with Saver, the interim general manager with SMG, and I guess I'm on the farm team. I came from Chicago and joined Reno in early June.
Good morning. My name is Kayla Lamort. I'm the director of food and beverage with Saver and SMG. I as well came from Chicago, so I'm part of the farm team, and I'm very happy to be here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Renee McGinnis, and I'm the Director of Sales and Event Services for SMG. I am a longtime Reno resident, and I am thrilled to be showcasing our hometown hospitality with the well-known SMG brand.
Hi, I'm Chef Carl. Local when I started, left for about 40 years and then came back 2 years ago. But Reno is my hometown. I'm the chef here, and I'm the local team.
And magically, he's still only 38 years old. It's incredible.
Hello, I'm Corinne Ball. I'm the HR manager for SMG, and just excited to be here to be a part of the teams, to be able to take care of our team members and find some really good talent along with these great people to really achieve the goals that we've been talking about today.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Carla Miller. I am the Director of Operations, and I am from the farm team, too. I came from San Diego, and in the short amount of time that I've been here, I've fallen in love with Reno, the culture, and its people. And I'm also super excited about how this team has blended so well to make an awesome operations team.
Move you into sales. Okay, that's good.
Hi, I'm Steve Markle. I'm Assistant General Manager of the National Bowling Team at the Reno Event Center. I've transitioned from with RSCVA. I was also here when the event center opened and made a lot of the transitions to make it more of an operating concert facility.
Good morning, all. Todd Martin Jones, Director of Facilities Accounting. Most recently came from the ski industry, working up at Sugar Bowl. I've been in the Tahoe, Reno area for probably a little over 3 years now, but my family and I, we bought a home down here recently, so I guess I would fall into the local talent with a little bit of international flavour, perhaps.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excited to be here and look forward to getting to know you all better and working with you all, so thank you.
Thank you. I'm John Adams. I'm the from Denver, Colorado. I'm regional vice president for the company and also the general manager of the Colorado Convention Center. That's my part-time job, I think, these days.
So John actually started with the company at Moscone Center in San Francisco and moved to Denver about 20 years ago?
25 years ago.
So great backgrounds here. Thank you all. I'm not going to keep you standing here. I may call upon you or throw a question at you, but why don't you guys just make yourselves comfortable again. Just in terms of numbers, we actually ended up having to transition or onboard about 150 total employees, full-time and or part-time. At the same time, we came in June 1st on the operational side, July 1st on the food and beverage side, and of course, Interbike was right ahead of us, and we had, in the middle of the bowlers was actually the transition on the food and beverage side. So the resources that you may not have even seen, in addition to the people we brought in as the full-timers and some of the folks you just met, we had about a dozen executives from around the company that came in just to make sure that Interbike came off the way we all hoped that it would, both from a functional standpoint on the venue side and on the food and beverage side. So to keep it going, again, there's no pride of anything here. Really, 6 months in our world is not a long time, especially with the 4 venues and the staggered timing of operational and food and beverage transition. But clearly, so you've heard some of the conversation about the facilities themselves. There's no question that the facility's been around for quite some time, and the expansion will be a big deal. But I always say expansion and renovation together, because the one thing that would afford you the ability to do, as pointed out through some of the numbers that Phil talked about, is to upgrade the existing facility, because you're never going to build an expansion where you have people walk from one part of the building to the other and say, oh, this is where the old building ends and this is where the new building begins. You want to have a seamless experience for your exhibitors and your attendees. There are a lot of opportunities for automation and technology, homegrown standards and procedures. I like to quote a gentleman our 2 folks who came from Chicago, both worked at McCormick Place for us on the food and beverage side. We took over the management of McCormick Place about 6 years ago, and their incumbent general manager stayed on with us. He's now an RVP for us as well. And McCormick, everybody hires us for different reasons. There's a whole variety of what's the right point in time for a venue to engage a professional management company to join the team. And even Dave Costin, who ran the 2.6 million square foot McCormick Place, and it's a phenomenal facility. If you've been there, it is the biggest in North America and a well-run venue at that. But David's first comment to us was, we believe we do it in a lot of things extremely well, but everything that we've done here and learned and how we operate is still based on what we've learned inside these 4 walls. So when we came into McCormick Place, the same as when we came in here, we don't come in believing we know everything or have the right answer, and we don't believe you do either. We believe that it's a constant melding of everything that's been learned in your operation within these 4 walls, and all we're trying to do is bring in our experiences at McCormick Place to Punta Gorda, Florida, and it's all about those best practices that have been built up over 40 years for our company that will hopefully be in the long-term benefit of the authority, the venue, and the people that use this venue. Establish new KPIs. KPIs, of course, are key performance indicators. It's how we're measured. It was an important part of the negotiation of our contract to make sure that how we are compensated is directly reflective of the authority's goals and the community's goals for not just the venues themselves, but the economic impact and how they serve the hospitality community and the people that we're all looking to attract to come into the Reno Tahoe area. Old habits die hard for all of us, and we're not expecting anybody to just walk away from 3, 5, 10, or 20 years of what they've done. We're expecting everybody to come to the table and work together and talk about those best practices, talk about what's worked, what hasn't worked, and really to cross-pollinate. Even when we bring people in on a task force, like we did for Interbike, it's an opportunity for the management team and the operational team here to interact with our other people and share war stories and share information. We're trying to sort of bring together and be a little bit more consistent in terms of what our agreements look like. Those are both license agreements for the end users of the venues, as well as the agreements that we have in place with the vendors that serve the various needs of the facilities. And again, there are 4 very distinct, unique venues, and this is not a new challenge, but it really is a part of our mission to cross-train, cross-pollinate, and have more of a singular, unified effort between the 4 venues and have people a little bit more comfortable moving back and forth between them. Steve's got the best role, right? Steve is already bi-coastal on the 2 sides of the street between bowling and the event center. Some of our key priorities that we identified just as we were coming on board and since, obviously it is all about sales and marketing. That's not just a suck up to Mike. My career's in sales and marketing, and I think that sales, marketing, and business development is what's critical for all of us. It's something that we were thinking about long before we ever had a signed contract. It's something that we started thinking about long before there was even an RFP, when we knew that there was even an opportunity to talk to you all about these facilities and the opportunity for your community. This has been on our mind and how we can support you, and I'll get into more detail on that on the next slide. Social media, enhance the online presence. We've got, again, for almost every discipline we talk about here, we have corporate staff that are there to help. There's a lady named Katie Wells, who's based at the Superdome for us, who deals with our social media around the country and deals also with our training, sales training and service training. So we're trying to take a look at all these opportunities for the venues. Operational efficiencies, again, a more synchronized staffing plan, looking at parking operations, update security procedures. SEMP is security and emergency management plan. It's something that we've done very, very in-depth across the country. If I throw things out there like the obvious things like 9/11, and the obvious things like if you actually remember the Ariana Grande incident at the Manchester Arena, that's our arena, and actually it literally is our arena. I won't say we own it, but we have a 40-year lease on that arena. So dealing with incidents like that and high exposure and impact events like we host, things like Super Bowls and Final Fours and political conventions, we have an area of expertise within our company that we've built up to try and bring into markets big and small. We consider ourselves in this venue type as a soft target. When you're looking at something like the Superdome or Soldier Field or Energy Stadium, those are big targets and obviously a lot more securable when you're in the sport and entertainment world because everybody's got to have a ticket, everybody's getting wanded. Our world is a little bit more fungible in terms of dealing with meetings and conventions, so it's something we pay very close attention to. Build upon this current sustainability plan, and we look to do this on both the operational side and the culinary side of our business, wherever we go. In Chicago, we built a beautiful herb garden at the top. You wouldn't think in downtown Chicago that we are growing the herbs and growing food product that we're serving inside the building as part of our food product. In Chicago, we also started our own local microbrew. Current focus, again, focus is all on sales. Work with Mike and his team. The picture you see on the right is basically one of our national sales efforts. We're going to try and get as much exposure for the destination and the venues. Focus on customer service, focus on technology, and I mentioned before the standardized contracts. What's working? I think the onboarding is always the most challenging piece. Human element is always the most important piece for us, and we're going to continue going down that road. Facilities assessment, the third bullet there, probably one of the most important aspects of our deliverables to the authority, and that is a team of our folks from around the country and our corporate staff that will come in next week and do a top-to-bottom, roof-to-floor, wall-to-wall evaluation of the venues in terms of everything from physical plant to warranties, and let that load into our system called Altum, which is our online facility management and maintenance program. Savor Reno Sparks, this is another deliverable promise. Again, we talked to you about our Savor brand when we first started talking to you. Savor is our national brand, but it's customized and localized. And I know Dante's very proud already. We're talking to Pinocchio's and, is it PJ? JP. I got dyslexia. JP, and about bringing his ice cream in, local product coming in next year. Holly Family Farms with their organic pork sausages. Again, this is our promise to you all and to the community, is to have people come in and out of this building wherever they come from and leave with a taste of Reno. And I was real proud that we already won an award at the Fantasies Chocolate event this year after just being here a few months. Making progress. Again, the event center downtown was a critical focal point for us, not just for the city itself, but for the casinos in downtown that really rely on that venue and the bowling stadium for foot traffic and activity. And I specifically put on there some of the relationships that led to each. We had immediately started on regular calls between the Row folks and our corporate entertainment folks. But more importantly, I didn't just put up the concerts, I put up where each of them came from. PBR is a big deal for us. They've been a national client of ours. We've actually served on their board for many years, and we really worked hard with PBR to bring them to market. Working with the Row, we actually worked very hard to get Tim McGraw, leveraging through our relationship with CAA when we were down in Nashville on one of our sales missions on the entertainment side. With AEG, we got Old Dominion coming in the first quarter, and Live Nation, Dierks Bentley. So I think this is one of the efforts that we promised and we're delivering on in this communication. Hopefully folks downtown feel the impact of this, and we appreciate the partnership in bringing these events in and serving them. So I tried to help catch up on time a little bit, Mr. Chairman. I can go back on anything or answer any questions or take any feedback you might have.
Greg, I think it's probably important too that the conversation that we want to continue, what's going to come out of that December 10th, evaluation. Really, you're going to do the top to bottom, you're bringing your team in, but what are we going to see from an organization from that assessment? It's
a great question. And again, this is part of the resources that we bring to bear. So we have an entire department. They actually sit right next door to me in our corporate office in Philadelphia, about 4 or 5 folks that are basically the funnel point of all of our operations directors across the company. So 240 some odd venues, directors of ops, funnel up through regional operations and up to our corporate office. Their expertise ranges from, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday, Chairman, in terms of even if you're dealing with the expansion or renovation, we do design review and work with architects and engineers and municipal clients on that piece of it. But what they will do is bring in a task force that have worked in every venue type that we've got across the company. They'll spend 2 or 3 days here with the local team, with Trent, and really looking at every aspect of the building. And the end product will be about a 60 or 80 page report that really is kind of our starting point We do these periodically in our ongoing venues, but certainly it's one of the first things we do as soon as we can get it scheduled, when we bring a new venue into the family. So that report will come back to you all, and it'll be part of our ongoing discussion for R&M, for capital, and even probably feed into the expansion renovation project. And for us, as I say, we've got this wonderful intranet website that is our facility maintenance and work order system. A lot of that information that comes out of the facility audit or the facility venue assessment will be loaded into that system as sort of the starting point moving forward.
Okay. I mean, as it pertains to the, if the expansion becomes a reality with those discussions, one of the challenges or one of the discussions we've heard quite frequently here at the RSCVA is that we want this facility to be best in class. Will you be able to give us your recommendations through your experience across the nation and other markets, how we can be best in class here at this facility?
Great question. And again, I think this was a part of our discussion with you all when we were actually bidding and responding to the RFP. And it is, again, another one of our, you've maybe heard me use the word unique resources. So in the past 20 years or so, we've actually done about 25 brand new construction and/or renovation and/or expansion projects. And they range from, this is our third renovation. They call it, it's an expansion as well at Moscone, but it's more of a renovation than an expansion. And it's an extraordinary process that we've gone through because we actually remained operational in San Francisco and they literally closed down Howard Street. And if you know downtown San Francisco, what we've done is connected two buildings that were across the street from each other and rebuilt the underground so that you had two distinct exhibit halls. Again, to Phil's point, there wasn't just a pinch point, there was a road. So now we've connected everything underground to allow for a seamless, much larger square footage. When we did Pittsburgh, it was the first Gold LEED certified, built from scratch convention center in the world. Each one of those is things that we can bring, and we can bring design charrettes together in that same operational department that I mentioned for the venue assessment, brings together a team of not just ops people, but general managers and salespeople from around the company to sit around the table and have everything from space planning discussions to fit and finish and technology and what customers are looking for. And to the other point, again, we've got some wonderful national customers that we would actually bring into the fold and talk to them, whether they're an existing customer for Reno or they're just in some of our other CompSet markets, to say, what are you looking for, where's your future going, and what do you need? So all of that is available to the authority the minute you need it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Murdoch, go ahead. Remember, this is an open forum. You don't have to raise your hand. Just talk.
Thanks.
I mean, I don't raise my hand. I haven't done that yet.
Great, thank you for this, and it was great to meet your team. Can't you hear me?
Recording.
Open record. Come on.
This is going on your permanent record, Mr. Murdoch.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's on. Great. What's interesting now, we appreciate it because we're starting to see some of the fruits of SMG's. I would call it how powerful you are in the USA with all the contacts. And I think what's real important to the RSCVA too is you did some programming downtown. We need to get some programming out here too. We always talk about our occupancy out here, but it's really nice that I think the power that you have of all the conventions that you guys host would be so good for us to start seeing it, I hope, sooner than later, even before our expansion, if we get the expansion done. It'd be nice to know when we can start seeing some fruits there.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rick.
Room nights, I guess.
It's all about room nights. And again, you hit the nail right on the head, and I only wish that conventions would book in the same timeline as a concert. It's obviously easier to get into the 60, 90-day cycle and literally start getting on the routing for some of the entertainment talent. But Mike and I have spent a lot of time, both on the phone and in person, talking about how we do integrate it and what of our national resources, the big trade shows we go to and the relationships we've got with the trade show companies and the experience and the Microsofts and the conference directs that are out there, to try and get Reno part of the rotation with us. It's the same philosophy as the concert side, it just takes a little bit more time. But Mike, I think, is already planning to be a part of at least 3 or 4 of our national sales missions for next year.
Any questions from the stakeholders or anybody in the audience that has any discussion for SMG or what the operations is going? All right. Great, thank you.
Thanks very much for having us. Appreciate it.
Okay. So we're moving on to priority 1, which is marketing. Moving off from facilities. Anything else before we move on from facilities? Any policy direction? Any feedback from the board? Any thing that needs to be thrown into the mix? I'm going
Super.
with silence as consent. Okay, so we are looking for, and again, there's not slides and slides and slides coming from the various departments. A couple of slides to feed the conversation, looking for some specific feedback in areas, as you would expect, at the policy and priority level. So just kind of framing that up just for a quick second. And Jennifer, I will give you this.
Oh, thank you. All right, as we mentioned earlier today, the media budget for marketing has grown from about $3.4 million to, for this current fiscal year, we're at over $12 million. And what that's done for us is afforded us the money and opportunity to go seek out an agency to be our partner, a national agency. And with BVK, they specialize in tourism marketing. And I'm pleased to say that Travel Nevada recently brought them on board to represent them as well. So there should be some great synergy there. We've seen so much opportunity in working with BVK, and they have brought quite a few opportunities to us in the marketing and advertising arena that we've been able to enjoy. We launched a new brand, as you all know, and the additional funds, most importantly, gave us the opportunity to expand beyond the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where we've been doing all of our advertising for years and years. And this organization and the board really emphasize the importance of supporting air service markets, bringing in new customers and visitors, and so we were able to start doing that. And in terms of how have we done, many of the board members have heard some of the milestones, but just as a quick recap, Bay Area visitors, Northern California, that accounts for 46% of all of our hotel visitors. And how do we know that? We know that by the visitor origination analysis, which we've been doing for 3 years now and has been an incredible benchmark and tool for us. What we did this year with the visitor origination analysis, we literally drilled down to the markets we're advertising in, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle. We went down to the zip code level, met with our media buyer. She talked to the outdoor billboard companies, and we knew from the zip code what zip codes were producing the most room nights for our hotels, and we're putting billboards up in those zip codes. So this is a project that really has paid off for us and will continue to do so. With the Bay Area, over the past 3 years, this is a mature market. They know Reno. We have seen a 3% increase in this market each year over the last 3 years. That may not sound like a lot. For a mature market, it's a big move of the needle. And I think this really underscores the point that our advertising is not going after, per se, the baby boomers that are very familiar with the casinos. It's going after a new segment. And I'm happy to say we're also, with Mayor Shivi's direction and guidance, we are looking at the LGBTQ market. In the Bay Area is one of the biggest markets of that type, as is Sacramento, in the country. Just yesterday, we secured our booth for the Pride Festival next year. Los Angeles market is our biggest notable success in terms of increase in room nights. They're up 14% since we started advertising there. Seattle, we're having a challenge. Simply, it's kind of flat. The challenge is the load factors on the airplanes are 89%. So to an airline, that's a full flight. I mean, does not give us much wiggle room for getting more people from Seattle on flights. Alaska Airlines has been terrific, and they told us they were going to get rid of all the Q400s and replace those with jet service, but the flights are full. And what we're proposing in the Seattle market, and I'm going to call on the airport to maybe give us some input as to what they know out of the airlines in that market per se. We're proposing with the Seattle market that we draw back with our investment in the media and advertising spend. We keep a presence there because I think the airport will illuminate that there is potential for additional service, but probably not for another 12, 18 months. So we're proposing we pull back. We have a digital presence and those fabulous boards at the airport, the billboards. But Hassan or Trish, do you want to come up and talk about that? And then I'd like to open it up for discussion, what this group thinks about, is this the right thing to do with the Seattle market?
So before we open up to questions for Seattle market, just a little bit more, and thank you very much for joining our meetings with Alaska Airlines. That's, again, a good example of the relationship RSCVA has with the airport authority. So thank you for that. So Seattle market, like Jennifer mentioned, they're full flights. Year-ending second quarter of this year, 89%. But we are seeing that it's full about 91, 92% for the summer. Great news. As far as the equipment's concerned, we have seen a significant change from the Q400s, the prop planes, into jet. So they are operating E-175, and they're operating, I believe, 220 flights a month on E-175s. So there's that. In addition to the nonstop flights load factor being high, the one-stop options that we have through the Bay Area markets, the flights from the Bay Area markets to Seattle are also full. So we do have a hub choke effect. So if we spend money in Seattle, how are the passengers going to come here? However, staying in Seattle on digital basis, just keeping a presence is very, very important. You never know. Alaska Airlines may decide to put in a 737, 150-seater aircraft, which this market needs.
Hassan, really quick, in regards to discussions, when we talk about potential airlines that are out there, American, United, some of the other major carriers, have they looked at adding service to the area? Have you had those conversations at the airport?
So we're having those conversations almost on a weekly basis, depending on which airline's hot at the time. So one of the things that we do is we understand what our airline strategies are. We want to make sure that our position with airline growth, their strategy is right aligned to where we want it to be. And we don't want to push for something that is not going to be successful for an airline. Because if an airline enters a market and they are not successful, they're going to pull out. Unlike hotels, they have wings and wheels. They'll go away. But the question is, when are they going to look at the Reno market again? So we don't want to lose that opportunity. But to answer your question, almost on a weekly basis.
Okay.
Rick.
Seattle. I was just there. I flew up on a jet Thursday. Came
Great.
back on a 400.
Use
props.
it or lose it.
Well, I want to tell you, though, a couple things about Seattle, which we have to really think about this. The West Coast is flourishing. Seattle's flourishing. You've got Microsoft. You've got Reno now with all this new business besides casino business and tourism. So, it really does behoove us to be in Seattle. I mean, don't turn your back on the market. It's thriving. It's unbelievable. Have you been to SeaTac lately? Expanding it, unbelievable. There's going to be more international flights coming in there. So I think you really have to, Hassan, on your side, and I think it's time to, you have to go to Alaska and you have to push more buttons in it. You may pay a little more, but if you want the extra nonstop on 737 or whatever it takes, I think you got to do it. So yeah, be careful how you back out of Seattle because it's very important. As an area carrier, I think you've got to look at even every California city now is pretty much thriving for even international gateways. This Sacramento, for instance, they're doing well. I mean, I think we got to look at the growth and there's still a lot of growth even in the corridor going down to San Francisco all the way up to Sacramento. It's exploding. El Dorado Hills, they're all moving towards Reno. I mean, I think we really have to be cognizant of all this when we're making our decisions for the advertising.
Thank you. And please.
Really quick too, just on the Seattle front. I mean, maybe this is a little bit biased since I have to be there a lot now. But I just got back on one of those propeller jets last night, and I think really the strategic approach to how we look at Seattle isn't necessarily the Seattle as a city Seattle, but more so the surrounding neighborhoods like Tacoma, Bellevue, and Redmond, because those are our demographics that are going to be there. Those are the people who are actually generating a lot. I mean, downtown Bellevue is popping up a new building every other corner that we speak of. So I think that looking at that area would be the best approach if we were to go forward with Seattle.
And we're on that. Our advertising covers that entire extended metropolitan area. Slide number 3, my last and final slide, we will start a discussion about what new markets. So save your those thoughts.
Yeah, Hassan, really before you step away too, and I want to talk about the new short routes between Oakland and here. How are those performing for Southwest?
So, great question. So as you know that Southwest Airlines entered Oakland and San Jose markets not too long ago, about a couple of years back. And these were, both markets were among the 6 that we lost about 7-8 years back. So it really tells us that Southwest really wants to invest in this market. However, those flights are not full. The flights are sitting at about 65 to 70% load factor. We just need to bring it up a little bit. Another thing I want to talk about those flights are that the passengers on those flights are not just going to the Bay Area markets. There are 34 one-stop options between the 2 markets. So if you support those flights, it could be marketing in the Bay Area, or focusing on just those routes. It's going to make the airline profitable, which means more capacity. Example, so San Jose, Reno-San Jose started last year as about once-a-day service. They went to twice a day. And in summer, they're going to operate 3 times a day out of Reno.
Great.
So,
And then one other question as it pertains to Las Vegas, because I know to get those flights to San Jose and Oakland that we had to Southwest moved flights from Las Vegas to get those short carriers, which reduced service to Las Vegas. But as we talk about something, adding these conventions, and as we grow here at this convention space, people are looking to get here, and that's always been a challenge, the airlift here. That Southwest is an economical flight for a lot of people to travel. When they're traveling for a convention, a lot of people will go through a hub, which is Las Vegas. Is Southwest looking about maybe potentially adding some of those flights? Because I know flying to Las Vegas, when we fly to Las Vegas, those flights are packed full, and so what is the potential of getting more flights added back into that route, the daily flights from Las Vegas to Reno?
So Las Vegas is an interesting market for that. So again, like I said earlier about the Bay Area markets, Southwest's focus is not just point to point, but funneling passengers through Las Vegas. So their main goal is connect folks through Las Vegas or Denver. But if you look at their overall structure, they are increasing capacity in Denver. Again, a similar concept, funnel passengers through Denver. So Southwest does a blend of point-to-point markets or connecting through markets. To answer your question about increasing capacity, we have a great example, very fresh example. So in partnership with, of course, RSCVA, we've been working with airlines to increase capacity for Safari Club International. So congratulations to you guys. Alaska Airlines and Southwest Airlines are looking at the markets, and we do see a little uptake in the market, and maybe the leadership can provide the numbers later.
Great, thank you.
Hassan, quick question for you. Can we tell, are we getting any Canadian visitors coming through Seattle?
Can you repeat that?
Originating in Vancouver through Seattle to Reno.
So we do see that, but on a limited basis. Again, there's a hub choke effect. We want to make sure that if it's a Vancouver market, if we want a nonstop, let's say for example, if we want a nonstop flight from Vancouver, we want to make sure leverage what we have as a strength there. So that would be WestJet or Air Canada. But Alaska Airlines is connecting a few passengers through Seattle, but not significant to warrant a nonstop flight.
Quick question. Hassan, we do see like Southwest adding or United adding Houston service. Yep. My question is, when the airport does get one of those, that's a big city. How do we convince them to get off the flying only during certain periods and to fly year-round? I mean, I know that there should be a strategy that we know New York worked, right? I think we know why New York worked though, because it's a graveyard flight. You have to speak why it works for Reno Tahoe, because they're not going to put that plane here in normal times, but it works. It seems like everybody likes using that New York flight. That costs us a lot of money. So I mean, that's a big home run. Houston would be a big home run. Minneapolis, any kind of city like that. So I mean, I know you're thinking that way, but when we do get that, short-term flight in there for whether it's Delta or whomever, is there a real effort there to figure out how to get them into nonstop, especially if they see, success?
Great question again. So there's a constant knocking on the door. There's a constant process that we go through. There's a lot of analysis we do in-house. We also look at Regional Air Service Corporation to see what capacity do we have with them to support an additional flight or making a seasonal flight to a year round. A great example, airport leadership team went to United Airlines headquarters not too long ago. We said we want Houston as a daily service year round. So they were operating on during the summer months and occasionally during the winter holidays. So again, congratulations to everybody. Now the Reno-Houston flight, just recently, is officially a year-round service. So then we go to the next goal. So let's look at how we can switch the weekend flying to a daily service. So we achieved that goal. So in March and summer months, that flight's going to be a daily service. So there's a constant knocking on the door, and if we don't do that, we're going to lose the opportunity. The plane's going to go somewhere else.
So Jennifer, as we open these new markets with the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, and what we've talked about Vancouver and international travel, we've been working with WestJet and Canada Air over the years. As we open these new markets, what is our retention out there for marketing as it pertains to the RSCVA? What are we doing in these new markets to really bring the area awareness and brand awareness up there?
We do have a national presence. This 895,000 is primarily digital across the country, but we can dial that up. If we have an airline that expresses interest, we can put more media dollars into digital in those markets. Typically, when we know a new market is coming on board, we have a 6-month notice and we can fund a new market.
And so I guess
maybe I don't understand you.
I guess my point is that the constant conversation we keep having here is creating compression and creating these new markets, getting outside of our driver markets and expanding who we are and creating that value here. But I think maybe from a board standpoint and a policy standpoint, as we open these new markets, as we work with the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, if we really need to launch into these new markets, i.e. Austin, i.e. Dallas, at Minneapolis, where we're doing in Vancouver, we need to get out in front of those markets, and maybe we need to bolster, as to Erica's point, dial up the national marketing or introductory marketing as it pertains to these new markets to really bolster that air service and utilize our funds to help, because we've gotten that plateau, the foundation now. What do we do to go help build Reno Tahoe's awareness for those flight drives and our, for those expansions? Because a lot of these people that are coming for conventions to our convention centers and to our area are flying from this mid part of the community. They're coming from these headquarters. What are we doing to entice them? So they're seeing it. They know that the convention's coming to Reno Tahoe. What are we doing to help bolster that?
Excuse me about this. So that's a challenge because we have limited dollars, and right now we're putting them where the direct air service is. We have our $1.5 million air service fund, which can be used for marketing mitigation assistance. We don't have enough money to get out ahead of it all. So, food for thought for the board.
Jennifer, one question, if I may. You got the RSCVA, and Stephen Squaga, thank you for this, because of the RASC, he's chairman of the RASC, and we brought Carl on as our new director. I believe you've got a whole new, fresh approach in RASC with Carl, who brings a lot of experience, so I kind of am looking forward to, to Bob's question, I think RASC can help answer some Bob's questions when Carl gets in and he's just getting his hands into it now and making the setting the table for us. So, I mean,
let's have Carl a few months down the road come give a presentation to our board, because that's how he ran Ski Lake Tahoe. They did their marketing, they identified their reach market, which happened to be New York City, and they went after it. There was no air service, but strategically, that's what they
and I think that's a great idea. And if Carl, if you're willing to come and give a presentation at the board and figure out how we can collaboratively differently than we've always done, but how we can continue to help RASC and help we can do what we can do from a marketing standpoint to help.
Yes, absolutely, and I look forward to it. Just so you all know, I'm kind of going through a strategic review of RASC now and plan to present in late January to the board my findings and recommendations for improving their efforts and focus and all the rest. And so rest assured that I'm going through it piece by piece, and we'll have recommendations. But I think these are great fundamental questions. You know, should we be looking at New York and Atlanta and Vancouver as strategic play as opposed to some of the things we've been doing in the past? And those will be tough, good discussions to have, and I think they're the right discussions, but I actually think there's an opportunity to leverage everybody, not just RSCVA, but the Lake Tahoe people and all the rest. We need a whole leveraged armada going after these things and coordination, and that's one of the things that I hope to bring is a wholly improved platform to go after these markets through air service. So I'd be happy to.
You have a question.
What would you say is the demographic of the customer coming from Seattle that has gotten us to the point of being so full?
Our target market is age 25 to 45, 49 years old. Someone with a mindset of ambition that is kind of youthful, not always necessarily in age, but in thought, and likes the outdoors, enjoys gambling, enjoys eating out, likes the breweries. It's a much more contemporary perspective of our region. And the business traveler. Don't forget Starbucks, too. Huge back and forth out of that market. Wendy?
City of Seattle, because we thought this is where they hang out and work. And when we looked at the room nights, we really saw, as he was saying, they were coming out more from Tacoma and north of Seattle. So what we're really finding, it's the people who are living in the residential areas and the suburbs because they can afford to live out there. So it's an outlining area. It's not really the city of Seattle, it's more the Seattle DMA. So we still, if we go back in, we'd still go to the city, but it really is that outlining area, that Tacoma area, Austin area, that area. It was interesting.
And as it pertains to the actual marketing itself, are we finding that the digital media is outpacing? I mean, it's difficult to say what media drives them, but should we be focused more on digital media up there because of the demographic that we're trying to get to versus maybe a print media, like Jennifer said, putting billboards and zip codes? Should we be focusing more on the digital or the social influence?
So not only in the zip codes with the high room nights in all of these markets, we're also doing social media to those target markets with the billboards, and we're also geofencing the billboards. So when you drive by a billboard, you get served a banner that looks just like the billboard. The majority of the media spend in all our efforts is digital. What we find is when we overlay it with traditional media, you get more reach, and our direct and our organic traffic go up, and our awareness studies. So it is majority digital, but having the traditional increases the impact.
I guess my other question, does it change from market to market? Obviously, does San Francisco respond different than Seattle does? Does LA respond different than San Francisco?
Overall, they're all very strong digital markets. What we do find is certain types of messaging or types of buys are different in each market. So maybe Seattle does really well with a certain email, or LA does really well with a certain native content partner we're working with. So with Christina and our staff, every week we constantly look at what message is resonating. Even different influencers resonate in different markets.
Great. Thank you.
Jennifer, you mentioned earlier that San Francisco is a mature or highly penetrated market. Would you describe Seattle as being in a similar state? I don't think so, but I'm just trying to confirm.
Correct. No, I would
not.
not.
It is not.
Seattle
and so maybe going back to Rick's point, I think rather than stopping the spend in Seattle because of the success of Seattle, that we look more to try to get increased air service coming out of Seattle and have a higher leverage to focus that because we know the success that comes out of there. I think I might recommend that until I know more. Would recommend that rather than shifting the spend.
Perfect. All right, we'll visit that a little bit later. We're going to take Nat.
It's on. It's on.
Just talk.
Speaking of the microphone?
Yeah.
God, that's a new twist, isn't it? Anyway, this is maybe not the right time to bring this up, but I've been sitting here all morning listening to the proceedings and so forth, and I started thinking back before Phil and his team got here, right? And Jennifer became the interim CEO, and we were in deep caca, right? And we didn't know where in the hell we were going, how we were going to get there, but we were going to give it a hell of a shot. And then we decided to do a 5-year strategic plan. And at that time, I probably was one of the biggest, what do you want to call it? Not the victims, but the biggest perpetrator in being a board member to get involved in operations, because I thought that we needed some help, and we couldn't basically trust the numbers we were getting and so forth and so on, right? Everybody remember that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So then we kind of all decided that if you read the mission plan, you say, we want to attract overnight visitors to the Reno Tahoe lodging properties, grow overall visitors, run efficient operations. Why? To enhance economic benefit and quality of life in northern Nevada. So that was going to be our goal, right? That's how we wanted this place run, and that's what we wanted to accomplish. So the methodology I believe that we used, we were going to go out in the open market and hire the best people we could find. First of all, starting with the CEO, and I believe you can all remember I was fairly instrumental in hiring Phil, okay? And Phil now has performed extremely well. He's built a hell of a team, okay? He's doing a hell of a job. Look at the results. We're beating projections and so forth and so on, right? That's about where we are today. Now, did we forget something along the way? Are we to be now an operational board again? Or did we hire Phil to be the operational person? Should we now be a policy informed board? Because we hired the experts to accomplish the mission statement. But it appears to me that as we move on here this morning and continue to talk about various things, we're going back to the operational board that we used to be before Phil got here. And to me, that doesn't seem to be the right direction to be going in as a board. And I could be totally wrong. I never say what I say is right. It's right or wrong, but that's my opinion. And I think we're getting off target here. We're wandering out of the reservation, being a board, trying to be a board that's going to tell Phil and his team what they should do, where they should go, how they should do it. I don't think that works. It's never worked in any place I know of. And as a board member, I just want to bring that up for comment, because I think as a board, we're going in the wrong direction. The team's going in the right direction. We're getting in their way. That's just my opinion.
I'm going to punt that right over to our chairman.
As you should, I guess. You know, and Nat, you bring up a good point. I mean, you're absolutely right. We need to maintain a policy level, but I believe the intent of the strategic plan is not to tell Phil and his team what to do. We never want to tell Phil and team but we want to make sure that what Phil and his team are doing, I think that the intent is what Phil has asked us to do today, is get feedback from us, because we can't really have this dialogue in a board setting. Do we feel that because Phil wasn't here when we wrote the initial strategic plan, and so I think he's asking for us and his team members, are we doing what you have asked for us? And if you think that that's right, then we'll continue to do what we're doing. And I don't want to get into your weeds, and you're absolutely right. We're not going to tell them how to go and what markets they should be in. But I think what they've asked for us to do as a board is to make sure that we validate that their motion forward is good, and that we feel that they should continue on, or if we need to change the strategic priorities based upon Phil's recommendation and staff's. So that's really kind of the basis of the conversation, is not to tell them what to do, but that we reassure them that they are doing the right thing. That's my opinion, and that's really what I hope the intent of this meeting is going to be, not to give them direction, but yet to give them reassurance that they're doing the right thing.
But I still stand by my comment.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Okay then. How are we doing on time?
We're okay, because we wanted to have a deep discussion on this, and we are looking for directional feedback on some of the ideas that Jennifer's proposing in relation to, and I said that earlier on purpose, sort of dialing up and dialing down to make sure that we know that where the resources are being spent, time and money, is what the board is expecting. And so these actually are some fairly big questions. We don't have to answer them all today, but the feedback's been actually really good. So
time for a quick commercial break.
Okay.
We just had our new video redone, showed it a few weeks ago at the Nevada Governor's Global Tourism Summit, and that was previewed there. We'd like to share it with you. It's a 3-minute video, so enjoy. And if you don't like it, I don't want to hear about it.
Converging where America's largest alpine lake collides with the biggest little city in the world, you will find them. Rebels, rule breakers, risk takers, mavericks. They're all working it for the same reason, to make it. And in a place like Reno, Tahoe, a collision of contrasts, you can make it big, make it loud, make it beautiful, or make it unbelievable. Make it whatever you want. Just make it happen. Reno, Tahoe.
Thank you. Just a new iteration. Moving right along, we finally had enough money to bump up our digital spend, which was a lengthy discussion we had at our original strategic retreat back up at the Hyatt. Digital's now 40%, and we're pushing that up moving forward as well. We're going to, one of the things that we've done is been very cutting edge, and we have set a tone in amongst our peer group with the DMOs around the country, which is our work with media influencers. And I'm really proud of what we've accomplished. I'm going to have Christina come up and just give a little bit of an overview so you guys know some of the things, the creative, innovative marketing that we are doing. And I've mentioned this before, but Christina is a frequent speaker, panelist at many of the DMO conferences that we have around the country for this work that she's done with some of our influencers that we've worked with. And we started back in, I think 2014. 2014, which is before people even really knew what social media influencers were. So take it away, Christina.
Yeah, Christina Ernie, the Senior Manager of Digital Marketing here at the RSCVA. So many of you have heard me speak upon our digital marketing, our influencer programs in the past, and so just wanted to come in, do a quick recap of what we've done, where we are, and some exciting projects coming up, and kind of how we've established ourselves within that industry. So as Jennifer mentioned, we hosted our first influencer now almost 5 years ago, which is crazy, but we really positioned ourselves as leaders within that industry. And so we've set reputations and relationships with them that have proven to pay off. So since then, we've hosted more than 40 professional influencers here in market that we have done marketing programs with. Most of them are repeat visitors. They come back. They are now ambassadors for us, which is awesome. And you know, we really have, with the evolution of our influencer program over the past 5 years, we have taken it from your traditional bringing them in here, and we've really integrated it throughout all of our marketing efforts. So we've taken it beyond digital. Of course, we are all across digital with our influencer marketing, but we've gone beyond it. We've put them on our billboards, without our radio campaigns, within those videos. We've really made it a priority to work with our agency partners. So like when I'm working with BVK, coming up with our advertising creative campaign. How do we fit influencers into that campaign? When I'm working with Excel Media, how do we buy so we can help tell those stories to get those out there? Noble Studios, and we were redesigning our website. That was a huge initiative to make sure that we had a platform where we could optimize our content to tell these stories and to gain traffic from that. So Yeah, sorry. That's where we are going with that. Where am I? Oh, yeah, and it's just been an effective marketing strategy for us. So about 6 months ago, you heard me talk about our recent summer influencer program. Just as a recap, 6 influencers came in, 12 million impressions. They gave us more photos than we asked for and contracted with. Didn't have at that time a few other statistics that I just wanted to share with you today. We partnered with Matador Network through our media buy to share those stories on that platform. So we had landing pages on this huge travel network that were sharing these stories. And then with that first month, they got 30,000 page views on that site. But what was really cool is there were more than 3 minutes was the average time on site. So those who got there really were captivated by those stories that those people were telling. On that page, there was they promoted a video, 800,000 views on their video that they created while they were here. And then our website this summer, we got more than 200,000 views to our influencer content on our website alone as well. And what we're doing with that is people do search out these influencers to come up with their trip planning, and we are capitalizing on that search and that content. So when they search for these influencers, stories about Reno Tahoe come up. And we are one of those top places that look like that they are recommending to go to. In addition to a website, one example, just looking at our YouTube, month over month, we hosted Loki the Wolf Dog 2 years ago now, and month over month, that is still one of our most top viewed videos, because people are going to YouTube looking for Loki videos, and the Reno Tahoe Loki video is one of the top videos that come up. So we're getting tons of traffic. The videos about how we are a dog-friendly destination, where to stay, where to play, where to eat, and go out. So that's really neat there.
Christina, really quick.
Yeah.
Can you kind of speak to how we source, your social influencers, how you find out, and, are we going to continue to do these social influencer trips, throughout the seasons, winter, fall, springtime, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So I will kind of circle back to when I was presenting this summer, you had brought up Jess and Quinn.
Yeah.
So Jess and Quinn, Jess Wandering and Ever Changing Horizon, are 2 of the biggest travel influencers in the world, truly. And when they came here, I'll answer your question, but when they came here, their content went viral, truly. No joke, 7 months later, they were here this summer, 7 months later, those photos are reposted daily on the internet, which now the internet's moving so quickly that for something to be viral 7 months later is huge. But these 2 people did that. And they captivated that content, and what got noticed was, so their stuff's performing really well. And so they instantly reached back out, and they were like, Christina, can I come back out this fall? Which these guys can travel anywhere they want in the world, and they wanted to come back to Reno Tahoe the very next season. They came back, really wanted to show them a diverse amount of stuff to see, so took them out to the Black Rock, did hot springs, went to Sparks, looked at fall colors, the river, Reno, Burning Man art, murals, river walk, the neon, Tahoe, they rented clear kayaks, and they did all this in 4 days. And they came back and they were like, you have something so special here. And this is coming from people who travel around the world. They're like, you have so much diverse opportunity so close to Reno. It's really incredible. And their stuff performs so well. So they ended up telling their friends about, and peers within the industry, about how well their stuff is performing here in Reno Tahoe. And and their friends got noticed about how well those photos are performing on their site. So it's really working well for us, but it's also really working well for them. And while they're building their brand and their business, this is their true line of work. And so, and these peers aren't, so anyways, they are now coming back for the 3rd time within 6 months, and they are bringing their peers, which are, no joke, the top 10 to 15 travel influencers are going to be coming to Reno Tahoe for New Year's Eve this year. Awesome. And it is huge. I mean, if you were to list if you were to ask anyone in the industry, name some of the top travel influencers, these are the names that would come up. And They could go literally anywhere, especially the caliber of 10 to 15 of them. They could go anywhere in the world. They have partnerships with airlines, destinations,
Countries.
no joke, agencies, brands. They could go anywhere, and they could generate hundreds of thousands of dollars and get people to pay that for them to come there. They want to come here so bad, we're not even paying for their flights or gas to get here. They want to come here that badly.
Wow.
And so it's really cool. So to answer your question, it's kind of now speaking for itself. So essentially, I don't know if I told you guys this the last time, Jess and Quinn had come here. One of the reasons that they came here, Jess told me, was she lives up in Seattle, and she passed one of our billboards coming home every day. And she recognized Breeze Turner with her dog Marley, who is an influencer online, on that billboard. She had never met Breeze, but she saw it every day coming home. And she's like, you know, I really should go paddleboarding with Breeze in Tahoe. Like, that would be really neat. And so essentially, that one person that we put on our board, that influencer, brought in these 2 major travel influencers who are now bringing in 10 to 15 top travel influencers in the world to our destination, and who knows where that's going to lead to. So I think that really speaks to this
So we're no longer
industry.
having to go out and source these individuals. They're organically coming
They are
to us.
organically now. I mean, in the beginning we were, but now they are coming, the number of emails I get, and they want to come, and we are giving them something to talk about as well. So, I mean, I work really closely with them, tell them, you know, the diverse opportunities here, but then they go out and discover it on their own too, and they're finding that our destination is really unique. It's gorgeous, it's unique, it's new, it's something to talk about, and it's really interesting to see us be positioned at this place right now and integrating it throughout our marketing campaigns and seeing the success of it.
Awesome.
Thank you, Christina. And
can I just say, I just want everyone to know, Christina's amazing. You have no idea. I don't think you understand how important it is to have someone like Christina. And I know Jennifer she sings your praises, but this is all about the new generation and the new tourists coming to our destination. And the reason why influencers are so important, because it's all about authenticity. Mm-hmm. This is so authentic, and it really speaks to who we are. But I just want you to know, a lot of us in this room are not your generation, so it's very hard to understand, like stories on Instagram and things like that that really are changing the game when it comes to advertising and marketing. It goes over a lot of our heads, but this is just a game changer for this generation. And again, going back to Jennifer, I really think you're like 18 years old, but because this is stuff that I studied through my business, right? Because I work with all teenagers, most of them. But I just want to say, I hope everyone in this room knows what a godsend you are for shifting those numbers when it comes to bringing in this whole new generation. And I also believe, not only that it's made such a difference in just the city as a whole, and everyone has talked about over the last few years, how's Reno done this? And a lot of this has been so many organic influencers just in our city saying, you know, look at all these cool things that you can do in Reno, and these faces that are coming about that are yet younger and energized, and that's really what's changing the game of the city in a lot of ways, is social influencing. So great job.
Thank you. Thank you for your support too, honestly. Really.
Thank you. And what Christina left out was all of the behind the scenes work that the team, the marketing team, and Christina spearheads this, but the integration and all the work that goes on behind the scenes. We're really excited about it.
Thank you.
So to wrap up marketing, what's next? We're looking at, we still have not saturated the Bay Area and Los Angeles market. We could afford to spend some more dollars in those markets. We talked earlier today about pulling back a little bit in Seattle, and I appreciate the comments because I think maintaining a presence is very important. Air Service Fund, we can't underestimate the importance of that, and with Carl leading the RASC group, there's going to be some neat opportunities and synergies. Esther mentioned our visitor profile study will be repeating in 19, and cannot wait to find out how this new advertising and direction has moved the needle with some of the demographics. And then the 24-month focus, we'll get into details at the end of the presentation, but what we're serving up is adding an additional market. We did a lot of data diving and looking into what market would we recommend. We looked at the visitor origination, which talks about hotel room nights. We met numerous times with the airport talking about air service, lift, capacity, cost of air tickets. We met with our media buyer and with our ad agency and talked about media effectiveness in the markets. We looked at the markets we looked at: Denver, San Diego, Phoenix, help me out, Esther, Portland, Las Vegas. And Vegas is very, very intriguing. We are going to do some more. We're proposing we do some additional, I'm looking at you, Shiraz, because I know you're a huge proponent of it. Our gut tells us, obviously, we know there's a tremendous amount of back and forth business and governmental traffic from Las Vegas, but the numbers are so big. So we want to drill down and get some additional data so we can really support recommendation to go into that market should we choose that. So that would be not for another, we'll look at that in the fiscal year. And that's the end of my comments. But Hassan?
Just one small comment. San Diego market, there are a lot of unfilled seats currently on that market. So most of this year, Southwest Airlines was operating 2 to 3 flights a week, mostly on the 2 side, on the lower end. However, we've been pushing the airline to add capacity. And if you recall, California Pacific Airlines started nonstop flights between Reno and Carlsbad not too long ago. That's northern San Diego area. So in response, and because of our pushes with Southwest Airlines, they're adding 1 additional flight. So for the next 3 months straight, we're going to have 3 flights a day.
The last time we looked, we had 32,000 available flights a month.
Unfilled seats.
Pardon?
Unfilled seats here.
Unfilled seats. So, board members, you comfortable with your marketing department? It's any
Jennifer?
questions? Yes.
No, thank you for your comments today. Just more of a thought, really. In looking at the brand video, I saw a lot of outdoor activities. I did not see much about gaming in general, and I would imagine that's probably been a discussion over the years, back and forth. But I would think that it still is a $1 billion gaming market. That is a primary reason that brings people to the area. So I guess I'm not saying that we need to fully promote gaming, but are we leaving opportunity on the table by not pushing that as much?
We're very, very sensitive to that, and that's a good observation. Typically, we do have some homage to the gaming there. The research from our last visitor profile study, the data showed that that was not the primary reason for most people visiting. Once they get here, the casinos have done a great job converting them to go on the gaming floor, and the data proves it and shows it. But it was not one of the primary reasons. We do keep it in mention in our radio ads, and it's a very valid point. And I'm sure Mr. Murdoch would agree with you because he harps on it all the time. All right.
So, before we move off of this, we are looking for the board's feedback on the proposals related to, again, taking a page off Nat's book, sort of generally speaking, those top 3 bullet points, actually the top 2 bullet points, are those the right priorities? Going deeper in the 2 current markets, what I heard from the conversation about Seattle is maintain a presence, really get after the air service, which is a partnership, of course. Is there any other feedback on that? We don't have to figure out the new market right now because that's pending what happens with the expansion. But we do want to make sure that the short-term priorities are accurate.
I'd like to go back and reiterate my point on Seattle.
Yep.
I think that we ought to press harder on Seattle because we've gotten such successful results.
I would say the same as Lee. I think that we need to stay, if not equal, but harder in Seattle and keep pushing that because it is that gateway from Canada into, and if we want to maintain that increased presence in Vancouver, and that I think that Seattle's important. That even though we're at that capacity, I think it's important that we keep pushing.
Wendy.
One comment I want to make on Seattle. what we're recommending is pulling back on that out of home and radio and increasing the digital and maintaining the airport. So we're not pulling back on the digital. We're going to shift some dollars there and just pull back on some of the traditional. Just to clarify.
Andy.
Thank you. For the record, Andy Chapman, Incline Village, Coastal Bay Visitor Bureau. I'm not sure if this is the right time to throw this out as a discussion point, but I think it's something to think about as we're looking at the expanded markets as well as the new campaign position that RSCVA has moved forward with, which is spot on and very good. And with our partner here on South Shore with Carol Chaplin and the LTVA, we do, I think, at times a really good job confusing our marketplace. We have Reno Tahoe, we have North Lake Tahoe, we have South Lake Tahoe, we have Travel Nevada, we have Visit California. There's a lot of entities that are at play here. A lot of the markets that you're looking at, if I was given a strategic presentation to my board, there are going to be many of the same markets, and I assume Carol would be the same. So I would just encourage, as we get into the planning process, how do we leverage these opportunities? Obviously, we do it through RASC. That's a platform. We've done it through Ski Lake Tahoe and Sierra Ski Marketing Council in the past. Those entities aren't the same structures as they used to be. So I think having the conversations through the planning process, so we know and I'll use the catchment area as the example, from an airport terminology, the catchment area that we're talking about is much larger than maybe just the geographic area of the RSCVA responsibility or our responsibility, and Carol's for that matter. So how can we make sure we're maximizing all of our opportunities in those planning process? Let's look at where we are all talking from a market standpoint, and because there are a lot more resources at play here than just what's on the table there. And obviously this is, RSCVA is a much larger organization than ours, but collectively between Reno and Tahoe, there's a lot of power there and resources. So let's make sure we're managing those and leveraging them.
And I think the two of you with your organizations and media spend has been part of the reason why the Los Angeles market has done so well. It's that synergy of all of us in that marketplace.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mark.
Just one more quick comment. I really agree with Mr. Caroselli. I think it's important that Phil and Jennifer and team have flexibility and autonomy to make decisions, and I would just certainly encourage it to be those decisions based off of data, research, and successes. So, you've seen continued successes. I would say, obviously, the team is going in the right direction, and support giving that autonomy to make those decisions based off of data and success research.
Thank you. Carl.
Yeah, I just want to support the continued direction, moving into digital, moving into influencer. I think these are the directions of today and tomorrow. And I really think the key point of differentiation that we often leave on the table in this region is the personality and the persona of these destinations. Lots of destinations have hotel rooms and golf courses, but really what makes it different is the vibe. And I think this direction of capturing the vibe of Reno really brings forward, as the mayor suggests, the authenticity of the destination. And ultimately, that is what differentiates you. If you are authentic, you are differentiated, and people will get that personality, and you'll attract those people. That's why I think you're seeing some new visitors come to the market, because you are bringing that personality out. So I think that whole direction is right on the money and should be continued at all, as much and as hard as you can push in that direction.
Thank you. Andrew.
Jennifer, first off, I just want to applaud everything that you and your team have done over the last several years. Since I've started attending these meetings, we went from spending not a single penny of those new surcharge dollars to spending several million. And $11 million out of a $52 million budget, that's something compared to where we were. And when I look around the country at CVBs and look at the best one, LVCVA really is the best at what they do. And they are in our state, and nobody does tourism better than Nevada. And one of the strengths of LVCVA is how much money they've invested in marketing over the years. And the what happens here stays here advertising campaign, that was done by R&R for LVCVA. And that's one of the most famous marketing campaigns we've ever seen. And what that really led to was a booming convention business there, lots of FIT customers coming to the region, and that's what we want to have here. But it really starts with marketing, and they would have never got to the point where they were expanding their convention center where it's bursting at the seams were it not for the marketing piece. So I just wanted to applaud your team, and I hope the board gives you all the tools that you need to expand our marketing efforts.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, shall we move on to?
Let's move on. Let's move on
Group
to
sales.
Group sales.
Mike.
Same kind
Thank
of
you.
question, and we're looking at dialing up, dialing down. Mike.
Very good, thank you. It's never easy following marketing. I'd like to follow finance next time, if that's okay. So no offense, Robert, no offense. So first of all, we've spoken in depth about the citywides and the production that they have produced for our city, and we understand the relevance. They always will be. We'll continue to go after those citywides. We understand the impact. More importantly, what I would like to accomplish today is in the last 18 months, we have made significant changes in the sales organization, both in group sales and tourism sales, and my slides really speak to a lot of those changes. And I would appreciate your feedback, whether we go in the right direction or we go in the wrong direction. We want to go sidebar on that, whether some of these changes are impacting you as stakeholders, whether you as the board feel like we're going in the right direction as well. So first and foremost, about 18 months ago, we made the decision to expand our footprint. And we really felt that, and kind of, it's a good segue coming off of marketing, because as you saw, the majority of our marketing dollars are being spent in our primary feeder markets. Well, we have zero presence in terms of marketing and brand as it relates to Atlanta and Chicago, maybe a little bit associated on the digital side or RASC, but nothing per se in terms of really marketing the brand. So we opened an office in Atlanta in June of 17. We opened an office in Chicago in February, and in Sacramento, we opened March. The reason for that is we really felt we needed to have boots on the ground, those one-on-one appointments, attending all those MPI regional events. And I guess I would just ask the question to the stakeholders in the room, are these offices, is this where you want to see us? Are you seeing the results from these offices? Is it complementing your sales teams and your efforts and your sales calls? And are you seeing that corporate incentive and association business coming from these areas? John McGinnis? Yes? One. Perfect. Excellent. Anything in the Peppermill? Mr. Flynn? I gave you $5 in the restroom to speak. Come on. What are you doing? Come on. He was reading an email on his phone. I caught him. That's what happened. Sorry, Stephen. The question was Perfect. So Pat, basically the question was, and it's kind of a loaded question because I know the answer, because I know the importance of the Southeast to your particular property is the markets that we have opened in the last year and a half. Are they supporting your needs and efforts and your sales efforts, and they align with them to where if we were sitting here today talking about new markets to open and they didn't exist, would you support Atlanta, Chicago, and Sacramento? Absolutely. Very good. Thank you. So it's always easy to talk about the wins. We also had an office in Las Vegas. That office was specifically directed towards the trade show segment, not so much because of it being located physically in Las Vegas. We didn't see the results. It didn't pan out the way we all intended, and we eliminated that office. But the one thing I can say, too, is I applaud the board, and I applaud my boss, Phil DeLone, for allowing us to take those risks, for allowing us to take a shot and grow new markets and try new things, whether it relates to physical offices, marketing, events, ideas, incentives. For the most part, we've seen those risks turn out. We're progressing. We're seeing the results. And at the end of the day, it's all about convention room nights. We dedicated a person to the Smurf position. We have a local representative, Robin Nichols, who was very well connected with the Smurf segment. And for those of you that are not in the hotel hospitality industry, SMRF is an acronym that stands for social, military, in our case, ethnic, religion, and fraternal. Big business for our market. We also, as I announced earlier in the board meeting, we now have Rhonda Leach on board, which, again, has been a request of our stakeholders. We listened. We now have dedicated resources and a salesperson that is really going to focus on equine moving forward. This slide is really about the numbers speak for themselves, right? We've seen progress. Things are going well. My question to you, again, is more about the segmentation. As a former hotelier, there's the pros and cons of the sports segment. is this split that we are seeing as it's being pretty consistent, actually a little bit larger in 17-18, but I think that came with the overall growth percentage relative to the prior year, but a 41% split to sports and 59% to convention. Is this where we need to be? Would you like to all to see 90-10 or 80-20? What does the sports segment mean to us as stakeholders? We have made a focus through Shelley and Nick and now Rhonda and the sports team is that we know that we don't necessarily need more softball tournaments in July, right? We need business in those secondary sports. The focus is on the softer periods, which is obviously Q1 and Q4. So we recognize that and we hear you. But I guess my question to you again is this a mix does this mix work if the business is put during the right time of the year?
Hey, Mike, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I think this is something that the mayor and I have talked about a couple times, is obviously with the recent press release for blockchains and what they're discussing at esports has been something that's obviously on the rise throughout the nation and internationally, you know, and we're talking about an expansion and a renovation here. How do we conduct more esports? And is that, I mean, that really does fall into that sports category. I mean, it's not exactly a ball and a net and, you know, whatnot. I mean, not a traditional understanding of a sports, but it's an evolution. And we just heard Christina talk about the evolution of marketing and the new millennial that we're talking to and the younger group that's coming out. Does esports really play into this, and how can we be effectively approaching those esports groups?
I think the simple answer is yes, it does. And we don't have a choice not to engage it, right? It's there. As of someone who lived in Las Vegas for 13 years, I still read the Las Vegas newspaper every morning online. There are stakeholders down there that have dedicated facilities to esports, right? It's real. Are they out playing your slot machines as much as maybe that FIT guest is paying rack rate? Probably not, right? But they are eating in your restaurants, they're visiting your breweries, they're partaking in your entertainment, your activities. And what's interesting about esports, for those of you that haven't followed it, is these gamers, per se, are getting paid hundreds and hundreds and $1,000s to come and perform in these arena and play against each other. And then the consumer is coming and paying $15, $20, $30 to go sit in an arena and watch two individuals literally compete in e-gaming, esports. It's unbelievable. So the answer is yes, and I know that I would love to have that conversation with our colleagues at SMG as we look at this expansion and renovation, is maybe there's a simple way to adopt to be able to cater to that sport within this facility.
And professional sports teams are now adopting their own.
They are. They are.
So it's a big business. And then going back to, if you do this renovation, make sure you do the infrastructure that can support that.
Completely agree. I mean, there are arenas, again, for those that haven't really spent a lot of time learning about esports, they're selling out football stadiums for esport events. 40, 50, 60,000 people.
Wow. So how are we going to dedicate staff? Are you going to reallocate staff to do that?
I think that would default to the sports team, right? We now have 3 individuals on staff. That really falls into the competition category is how we define the sports team. So yes, it would go to Shelley, Rhonda, and Nick.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay. Prior?
Either way.
You want me to script for the essence of time?
Yes, I do.
All right, very good. Jennifer, see, I do anything for Jennifer. All right, so let's see. Focus. Okay. So where are we going, right? And this again aligns with the strategic plan. We have been tasked with a 7% increase per year in group night production. Our goal went from 260 to 280. Obviously, we hit it out of the park last year. We're pacing on goal this year. But again, it's an aggressive goal, but we are up for the challenge, and we want to align with the plan. We definitely think we will see an increase in new business through our Biggest Little Site program, FAMs, and out-of-market events, and creating a unique environment and unique thought process to drive more business to our destination. Identify additional synergies, as Greg mentioned earlier, with SMG through trade shows, advertising opportunities, and then, of course, as I mentioned, Rhonda being fully dedicated to equine sports. What's our focus in the next 24 months? Again, in the alignment with the expansion and renovation, we will definitely look at restructuring our territories, We will look at possibly opening new offices. The goal is, depending on the room night number that comes back, if an expansion is approved, we would then look at allocating staff in condition with a ballpark number of 25,000 additional group nights per person. With that comes an expansion of our media campaign. What a great opportunity to really go out there with a big splash and tell the world about what's happening here in Reno with our expansion, with our renovation, our properties, our capital improvements, and that would just give us a good reason and excuse to go out there and tell the group segments what's going on. Yes, sir, Mr. Caroselli.
You wanted input, right? Input about what you're doing is correct, and I think you're doing a great job. That's
Thank
my
you.
input.
Very appreciate that. Thank you. Was that good? No way. Come on. All right.
Mike, one
Yes.
quick comment.
Yes, sir.
No, I agree. I think things are going in the right direction. You guys are doing a great job. I just would encourage, if there's a possible way to attach a profile of economic impact for the groups that you're pursuing and putting a priority on those ones that obviously have the higher economic impact. Maybe not just a 7% growth, but actually growth in economic impact based on the profile of the groups that we're pursuing and the energy and time that we put into those higher profile groups.
Absolutely, and just to echo my prior comments is that as we expand, and as we have expanded, and should we expand in new markets with new staff, we are hiring people that are used to selling to a higher profile, more profitable guest, and requesting a higher ADR. Okay,
So,
Mr.
we're looking good? Looking good. Okay, we have tourism sales to talk through, and then let's look at how this all comes together. Art.
Okay, so I've been instructed that for the sake of time, I have to be very, very brief. So about 2 weeks ago, we were at dinner at the Governor's Conference on Tourism, and I sat next to our CEO, Mr. DeLone, and he patted me on the back and said, "You're doing a good job." So thank you. So I joined the RSCVA. I joined the RSCVA in, whoops, let me go here. I joined the RSCVA April 1 of 2017. And when Mike handed me the keys to the department, I found out very quickly that the department needed a lot of tender loving care. The department had gone from about 8 people at its peak to about 2. So we totally spent the next 6 months rebuilding and repurposing the sales department. From the way how we build our sales plans, how they're tied to our zero-based budgeting, how we have set rules of engagement for partnership marketing, and even how we travel and where we travel, and everything that goes in between there. So that was the first part, was rebuilding the sales department. Secondly, we needed to reintroduce a destination to the travel trade, tour operators, receptive operators, and travel agents. So we developed programming touching 55,000 of these sellers of travel on a daily basis. We've also stepped up our FAMs. Our FAM process, we believe that seeing is believing, and we've ramped that up. On the international front, we opened a China office per the direction of the board. And we've also stepped up our presence at international trade shows, albeit that international is not a big driver yet for this destination, but we need to keep our toe in the water for some of those markets that are coming to this destination. Reporting and accountability. We streamlined the reporting process so that we can be more accountable, but more importantly, to give us more insight and visibility into this channel so we can make data-driven decisions. And relationships, we spent a lot of time rebuilding and re-strengthening our relationships, tourism-based relationships, not only with our hotel partners, but our sister DMOs, Brand USA and Travel Nevada. And then staff, lastly, we filled this position, my position, thank you very much, that was open for Jennifer, 5, 6 years? This position, and we did add a new tourism sales manager in July. So this is just a handful of some of the big wins we've had since fiscal year 16. But compared to a few years ago, I hear from my peers in the hotels, the directors of sales, but from the board, how are we performing? Are we fulfilling what you thought what we would do in the last 18 months? I'd like to hear. I hear feedback all the time from Phil and Mike and Jennifer, Nestor. But how is the team doing out there from the audience?
From our side at Atlantis, the team's very engaged, always creative. For the record, John McGinnis, Atlantis. Not the Peppermill. Art, I think you have a fantastic team, and you've got some really great focus on what you're doing on the tourism side. I mean, for me, I've been selling this area for 25 years, and it's our backbone. I mean, it's what keeps us going, and it has been for so many years. And now with Mike and his team, just to kind of segue into that, what a fantastic team that complements what we are trying to accomplish as a region, and what we've been trying to accomplish for the 25 years that I've been doing this. So just keep on doing what you're doing, Art. And
Thank you,
and
thank you,
Michael.
thank you. So one of the things that I've noticed in this market that is not so much different, I spent my career in Las Vegas, is that a lot of the properties change direction pretty quick in how they distribute their product in the different channels. Some properties dial it up, some dial it down. Next week they turn it on, turn it off. Now it could be a lot of situations with the third-party vendor. So we focus our direct marketing and tourism to fill need periods, all right, the shoulder months. But I think that we have some opportunities to fill or assist and help fill the high periods. I know that a lot of the DOSs and the properties have said to me, hey, hands off, stay away from summer, don't touch it, leave it alone. But with 72% occupancy as a whole, I think that we have some opportunity. Not necessarily to go into summer, but maybe right into spring. Some thoughts from the DOSs on maybe supporting what you're doing. Maybe not an answer right now, but just some of the things that we're thinking about into the future.
Art, really quick too, and one thing I want to bring up too, one of the discussions we've always had in regards to tourism as it relates to the DOSs and the properties is having a unified message. Having a unified message that kind of continuously reaches out there to those clients, through that tourism base, that makes sure that we're all working together as a region to bring them here, so that when you're going to these international meetings, when we're doing the China Ready stuff, when we're getting out there and we're maintaining that international presence, that our properties feel that our message is still unified across the region, and that we're not, individually fighting out there to sell Reno Tahoe in a different manner consistently. And that was one thing I wanted to ask all the properties. Do they feel that RSCVA is helping maintain that unified message? Yes, no? Pat? John?
So on this slide here, it just shows very quickly how we're performing in our, where's it, over here, fiscal year 16. We tracked 642,000 room nights in 6 key channels that we track. So traditional wholesale, travel agent, receptive, group tour, motor coach, OTA, and ski golf. Last fiscal, we tracked 749,000 room nights in this sector. So this sector continues to play a vital role into our destination, just to echo what John was saying. Again, this is just for information. China highlights. So, if you recall, this was a board strategic decision from the strategic plan to open offices in China. So sales activity, the PhD team has been very, very busy in China. They've conducted about 150 in-person sales calls and call center trainings. We've conducted 5 travel trade FAMs and 2 media FAMs since June. Public relations, we've conducted about 50 in-face meetings in China that have generated 130 story pitches, 215 placements, and even 1 radio show interview. Trade shows, they've been assisting us in trade shows both domestically and in China, representing us with boots on the ground there. And then consumer direct, if you recall, we opened our Chinese website and WeChat and Weibo, which is Facebook and Twitter, this past August. So in the short term that we've been working on China, I think we've come a long way. I think we've come a long way just from a standpoint, are we on track? Are we on pace? Do we need to dial it up or dial it down? And I'll talk in a little bit of what's going on with the economy in China and the tariff wars. We're good? Okay. So here's some examples of PR coverage. So we hosted 2 FAMs, media FAMs, and Ben, thank you, he was very instrumental in these FAMs. But we had these publications come out, Travel and Leisure, Voyage, so on and so forth, and we got almost immediate response in the marketplace. So these 2 FAMs in June and August generated these articles, and they have a combined circulation of over 3 million people in China. So I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in China. So again, I mentioned it was part of our strategic priority to open up offices. We have a 3-year commitment with PHG. We're still in the development phase. We're still in the infancy of this. And again, we've come a long way since February. But what's going on in China? China travel to the US is down 16% from Q1 to Q3. Golden Week, which is the biggest travel week in China, which is the first week in October, visitation to the US was down 42% during Golden Week. It was just hemorrhaging. Why? Visa approvals. This administration, just from September through October, or May through September, issued 102,000 less visas than the same period last year. All right, the economy is cooling off. The yuan is down 9%. Not only affects travel from China, but having a strong dollar affects all international inbound travel. The trade war is percolating. With all the political rhetoric right now, China is maintaining itself. U.S. travel predicts that China travel will increase just about 2% this year. Now that's compared, and it's nothing compared to the 8, 9, 10% increases we've had over the last 5 years. So I've taken my foot off the gas a little bit for China. We have a marketing plan that we're reviewing right now from PHG for 2019. We're going to have it in the can, ready to go. It was a good sign over the weekend. We pumped the brakes with the tariff wars, but it's still too soon to tell. Do we go in hard? Because they're still coming, and there's still a lot of visitors coming, especially to the Bay Area. So I'm of the belief that they're still coming. How do we get our share of those that are coming? Any comments to that? If we dial up or dial down or maintain what we're doing? Super. Yes.
Economic side. This is Shiraz Ecker with the Atlantis. My question is what's the plan on the back end? In other words, if we take it down on China, do we have another international, area that we're looking at? I don't know, are we looking at Australia, Europe, any other areas that may be a little bit more vibrant, that would have more travel this direction?
I think that we continue our course with China. Maybe not dial up a lot of spend, but we're in the market. We've worked too hard to get where we're at, and I think we've come a long way in 6, 7 months. We have to be careful how we spend our money, but they're still coming. On the other international fronts, it's tough. The Volaris flight, while it may be running at a good occupancy level or load factors, we still think a lot of that is friends and family. Canada, we've talked with the Canadian Airlines, and we've been up to Canada, and we love Reno, but Vegas has nonstops. So I think to go into those markets, I think we still go in there a little bit with Travel Nevada on their sales missions. The UK, wait to see what happens with Brexit. But I think right now we go the course with China. So our focus for the next 24 months, we want to maintain, we conduct about 40 annual tourism programs, and we want to maintain that programming. We want to, of course, adjust it, streamline it, fix it, get rid of it if it's not working. And we also want to maintain about 26 annual China initiatives. And of course, if we get a new media market or media markets, we will work side by side with marketing to be with tourism programs in those markets. And of course, whether it's partnership marketing, and we do want to dial up our direct sales programming within the travel trade sector. That's all I have. Any questions? Super. Thank you.
No questions for
Next.
Art? Okay. All
Thank
right.
you. Yeah, thanks,
Back
Art.
to you.
Yeah, back to me. All right. I'll take that. Okay. All right. So, Robert, you get to help me with this. So, all of those proposals and recommendations kind of come forward into what the proposed priorities look like. And, priorities are really about how we choose to fund things, quite frankly. And again, we're just looking for directionally correct. And what we're looking at the top part of the slide, if you will, is from what Robert showed us at the beginning with the 5-year forecast, or the four-year forecast, actually. There's some available funds over the next 4 years that this organization can choose to apply based on the priorities and the proposals that the team put forward or other direction we're hearing from the board. So what we're looking for is just some direction back from the board in terms of, do we think these are the right levers to pull as it relates to the resources that can be used to have a bigger impact in the mission of the organization in this community. So that's the top part of the slide. The bottom part of the slide is what Robert was referring to earlier, that with the expansion, there's ability to shift some of the dollars that are currently going to maintenance and CapEx to sales and marketing. So this is sort of what would be available additionally. And this is still a bit, I would say, in flux, would you say that? Pending A, the expansion, B, there's a lot of unknowns, but this is just sort of what the picture looks like. And so intrinsically what the team is proposing back to the board, and we are looking to know if this is what you want to see, is not, so Jennifer helped me as well, not entering a new market. That is intrinsic in the steady state, no expansion available funds 4.8. But going deeper in the Bay Area and LA, and that would be about $500K, that should say, a year, not $500. And again, this is over a 4-year period. You heard Art just say maintaining the current level of effort in China, the recommendation to apply additional $95K, that should say, per year to support new air routes, and we can ask Art to speak to that. Continuing to fund the revolving air service fund to make sure we have enough there, right, to support air service. And then the other that we just heard a little bit from the conversation today was potentially supporting new air service markets stronger. That was a comment that was made. So that's an example of a potential other. So through the conversation this morning, I didn't capture any other really big priorities that might go under the other, but let's have the conversation. So
yeah, and I think that's the biggest part, and this is really where the board plays the most crucial role in today's events as it pertains to the strategic retreat. What are we doing right, and is this the mission that we want to make sure that, and this is the recommendation Phil and the team has brought forward. Is this the right thing? What do we think is going to go, and where should we go with this? And is it, and it's not getting into the weeds, to your point, Nat, not getting into the weeds and into the details of telling Jennifer, Mike, or Art specifically how to spend their money and what to spend their money on, but do we need to, because as it pertains to the budget, which we will all be voting on as a board, does this fit our budgetary understanding of what we need to continue to do? And so really this is where the board gets involved about the conversation. Is this the right direction, and should we be doing something a little bit more expansive, and right now telling staff to maybe allocate more money to different places? Are there things that we're missing? Yeah, Vic.
Yeah, I'll just kind of make a quick comment around looking at the expansion efforts, and I wholeheartedly agree that I'm sure marketing and the research team has done a great job looking at what markets we can potentially go into. I would err on the side of caution as to whether or not we should go in that direction and put that much more additional funding into a new market unless there's that same tangible effort of putting in that kind of effort into air service into that region, because I think it's going to be the continuing conversation of, we're looking at this unit, we're looking at this city, we're looking at this destination, but we don't have direct air service. And if we continue to go down that path, we're going to be spreading our money or our dollars in every different destination that we could possibly think of that resembles any kind of similar demographic that'd be interested in Reno Tahoe, without being able to support that air service, because now we're just shooting ourselves in the foot by not being able to have those funds.
And that's perfect policy direction that we really want to get to, is that when we start writing policy, is that policy that if we're going to go and market into or send marketing dollars to a market, should there be certain foundational pieces in place? Should there be certain air service lift? Should there be certain things before we go and allocate marketing dollars to those kind of funds? Or should it be at the discretion of the marketing department? And so those are the kinds of discussions I'd like to have today with the board members that are here. Now,
they should all be at the discretion of the CEO. You cannot hold it against him to swing and miss. And if he misses, then you regroup and try to find out a better route or a better plan. But if you don't allow him to swing and miss, then your CEO is hamstrung. And for him to have to come to the board and ask how he should do something is a gross waste of his time and our time. That's my opinion.
Okay. Is there any other opinion by board members? Any other discussion? No?
Maybe Jennifer, could you just speak for a quick second about how the compilation of all the data comes into the mix, and not in detail, but just the airlift is a key component to the analysis, right? Just as a point.
Thank you. Yes, and Howard can jump in, or Esther, or the airport. We've sat around the table many a time, and with respect to air service, we look at, and we're looking at new markets. We are only looking at markets with direct air service, and I know you're talking about if we were to go beyond. Only looking at markets with direct air service, only considering markets that have available capacity on that direct air service, looking at markets with the airport's intel as to, well, I had a meeting with Southwest and they are looking at expanding, or, you know, I've heard rumors that Spirit Airline is looking into the destination or looking to expand. So we take some of that anecdotal information, we take the stats, we spend a lot of time on this VOA, visitor origination. And that San Diego came up because it was a 16% increase in hotel room nights year over year. We look at the population. We drill down to our target market and how many people are from that target market living in that geographic market. Howard, throw a few more on.
A few more on. Thank you.
Price, the per capita income.
So thank you so much to all the stakeholders for providing the information that we have that built the VOA, and it's been 3 years, and I think we need to add a little more value to it, but it's so usable for what we have. So when we start looking at where our customers or our visitors are coming from, we're able to even look at different zip codes and look at some demographics, you know, about income. And we found over the years that it would make sense that the higher the personal income, the more they visit. But it's definitely a very solid correlation. So we tie it market growth for the particular market that we're looking at. So there's a lot of demographic information is available from the Census Bureau that we tie back to what we have. And then since you provide us down to the zip code, we can even provide, as Wendy said before, we can even look at inside of a particular MSA who's really coming. So we did a lot of work, some anecdotal, where we were able to pull things together, but to paint a pretty good picture of where we're headed.
Are we missing anything, Hassan or Esther? Can you think of anything else that we looked at?
Well, we've also done some awareness studies prior. Once we identify a market that's viable, then we'll go in and we'll do some awareness surveying before we'd even start going to see where the baseline is. And so far, the markets that we've gone into had really strong baselines to begin with, and we've only gone up from there.
And by that, she means not only awareness, but I like Reno. Reno is a place I want to go, that type of thing. Lee.
As you were going, I'm sorry. Please.
Yeah, and I was just going to make a kind of a quick comment, kind of around what Mr. Caraselli was saying, is that yeah, we do have a fiduciary responsibility, and that's why I don't think it's necessarily like, hey, we don't trust what staff is doing, executive staff is doing. But if we swing and we have that extra $5.575 million, the board is going to be looked at as being irresponsible in the lack of decision or helping direct that conversation. So just wanted to preface that and make sure that it wasn't we're not trying to get granular in the weeds here, but it's really that fiduciary responsibility that we have as a board, and that's kind of what our core pillars are.
And that's over, I keep forgetting too, it's over a 4-year period, the right-hand column. Mr. Dillard?
Yes, so my question is when we went into the Bay Area, LA, and Seattle, how long was it before we began to see the results, the achievable or the attainable results that we were hoping to see when we measured? And the reason I ask that is because I'm thinking that if we're deciding about adding San Diego, and we're maybe talking about not going into San Diego for 4 years, is 4 years from now seems like an awfully long time that we ought to be kind of thinking about that.
I think what you're let me make sure I understand the question. You're questioning why we are proposing for 4 years to be in San Diego.
No, not at all. What I'm saying is that when we went into the 3 markets, right, we spent into it and then we get results X months later, right? And we're looking at a period of, for planning purposes, 4 years. And are we saying we want to go all or nothing in the next 4 years into San Diego? It sounds like we would want to continue to evaluate San Diego over the next 4 years and jump in at the appropriate time.
Go ahead, Esther.
Well, I know that looking at the markets that we went into, so it's 18 months. We launched the new brands May of 17. And we start getting results right away. We get results by website visits. And we've done this quarterly awareness brand survey. Is actually not quarterly, semi-annual. So we continually look at different measurements. The VOA study is also another measurement. So it's continual. We don't want to do a stop and start. So Seattle, for instance, is a perfect example. We've been in there 18 months. We're not seeing the results that we want. We don't want to pull out because we think it's still a really good market for us, but we don't want to spend the same kind of money that we've been spending in it because of the airlift. So we're continually monitoring, and we have different points along the way.
I'll just finish with one comment. From where I sit and think about it, it feels like you all have your finger on the pulse and you're looking at the right ones. And so I support the direction that we're looking at here.
Thank you.
And Phil, I want to bring you up now. And obviously, there's been consistent discussion about you as the CEO of the organization and the composition of your very competent and very intelligent executive team. From these priorities and based upon Mr. Caroselli's comments and the rest of the board's comments, do you feel this is the right, would you recommend, obviously your recommendations, you haven't changed this, you feel confident and comfortable that this is the direction we need to continue on?
Yes, we've been working on this for several months, and if you just look at San Diego and its why that market? Why that market instead of Las Vegas? Or why that market instead of Phoenix? We looked at all of the data of all those markets, and the one that really shines through with the earnings of the individuals that live in those markets. For example, San Diego has a very high personal income level compared to Phoenix, which is very low. And we have sufficient air service in San Diego to support our spend there to go in and market to that fourth area.
So in a larger discussion, really not in pulling out of the granular discussion.
In the larger discussion, we've discussed this with not only on strategy amongst the senior staff level, as well as the managers that work in all those areas, and I think, as a group, all support those line items.
Great, and I think that's really where we want to get to as a board, is making sure that you feel comfortable as a CEO that since you didn't participate in the first strategic plan, that the priorities still are consistent with your priorities, and that you feel that the priorities align with the way we're going to spend the budget when you bring the budget forward, and that we have now a clear understanding of what your staff really wants to achieve, and that the board is now bought in. And I think this has been a big fact-finding mission, not only for the board, because we've heard this subsequently in small chunks throughout board meetings, but to have it in a larger presentation for the first time, this is actually a good thing that we've we've completed the wheel, so to speak. And so I like that the discussion has finally kind of come full circle, and we feel confident. And I think we've achieved what we initially set out to, was general consensus, not with just the board, but with staff and with all the stakeholders today, that this is where we want to go. There's no subsequent changes, no people raising their hands and saying we're off the rails and we need to change things. I think ultimately where we got out, as we stand right here, right now, people feel consensus.
I think that's true, and just maybe to recap for quick sec, obviously have action items from the conversation, but from a strategic level, what is proposed is strengthening the work we're currently doing in the core markets, maintaining Seattle. The proposal on that is because the team felt there was more opportunity in those core markets. That's why, that it's not oversaturated, I think, which is another point of information, that the current sales level, the resources in sales are at the right levels to deliver the 7% growth that is in the plan. And that we know we need to make sure we've got the funds available to continue to prioritize air service. That was a board policy, and that's making sure the money's there. So that's strategically what we're saying. And then if there are additional funds available with the expansion, we can come back to what that actually looks like when that factor is, however that shakes out.
Well, and the one thing that and I'd like to just make that point is that as we see the potential of the expansion, the benefits of the expansion not are going to be just here for the center and the ability to sell a center, but it gives us the leverage to do so many other things with other marketing dollars and move funds around that it's not going to be directly beneficial about a new product to sell, but it's going to allow the RSCVA to do so many different things. And so for the stakeholders that haven't seen this presentation or haven't heard the benefit of this, it's not going to be about a new product. It's going to be about so much more about us moving into new markets, really diversifying funds into different places that haven't had those access. So, all right. So with that, we have not much more. We're wrapped up. So we want to thank everybody for coming today. We really appreciate it.
There's lunch next door.
There's lunch next door. Chef Carl has prepared a wonderful lunch from Savor. We'd ask all of you to come and join us for lunch. We want to thank everybody for participating today. I'm going to open up one last public comment. I'm a big round of applause for On Strategy and Erica. And thank you for you all, and SMG, thanks for joining us. All the stakeholders, we really appreciate you coming in today and kind of hanging in with us. But that's it. Seeing no further public comment, nobody signed in. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.